Okay. All right, it's 6 p.m. Call this meeting to order. Starting out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Henley, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing is the approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve.
I move we approve the agenda.
And a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Agenda is approved. Okay, the next thing is the public hearing on the instructional time model. So we have to vote to suspend our regular meeting for a public hearing on that. So can we have a motion to suspend our regular meeting?
I move to suspend our regular meeting.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Instructional time model. Who is giving that presentation? Dr. J?
President Rakowski, members of the board and guests, thank you all for being here. So each year we submit an instructional time model to the board for approval. The instructional time model allows the school district to be creative in their scheduling, and it allows us to do some things that are a little outside the box. So currently we have an instructional time model in place, but what we wanted to do is, as we have gone through this year with some new programs and with some changes that we see coming in the future, we wanted to update that instructional time model. So there's 3 parts to this that are highlighted in red for you to review. The first one is regarding ASU Accelerate, our FHU program. And after 2 terms and high success rate of this program, it's one of our most popular programs with our high school students. We need to, we want to adjust the time model a little bit to ensure that everything that we're doing with FHU is done correctly. So, for example, a lot of these classes could be offered just online, right? We didn't want to do that. We talked about that as a board, and when we got these approved last year, we decided to co-teach these with ASU and have a class where a teacher is keeping an eye on the child and making sure they're progressing in the way they should. And by doing that, we've had, to my knowledge, 100% success rate. So that is what we're after. So now that we've done this for 2 terms, we've just highlighted some specific details of how we do it in the time model, just to be more specific. So if anyone does look at it, they have a little bit better understanding. Where we started was we said we're going to use ASU Accelerate as courses throughout the day, and we're going to use that as part of our instruction. But now we're getting more specific because Mrs. Pinto has instituted this year, and she's done a really good job of growing it. And I believe we have periods almost every period of the day now to give kids more opportunities to be able to take those classes that fits into their schedule. So that's all we're doing there, is just updating the language a little bit, okay? The second one is EVIT, East Valley Institute of Technology Partnership. And as we're going to talk later tonight about budget reductions, one of the easy things we can do that has really minimal impact on our district is to go to EVIT in the morning only. And that's something we've already started with registration process, is pushing the kids to take those morning EVIT courses. As a result of that, there's a period of time when the kids get back to campus, about 30 minutes, depending on traffic and how quickly they get out of the parking lot, where students have an opportunity to do a variety of things. And one of them is to take these ASU classes. It could be a study hall session. So what we're going to do is we're going to, starting next year, put in their schedule an actual study hall period in that 30 minutes for EVIT students when they get back, so that it is counted towards their academic day. Okay, that's one of the things. The second thing is that it'll also allow for the possibility for travel time too, which is another part of the EVIT experience. Every kid, I don't know of any kids that transport themselves. I believe they all take the bus, and a lot of them use that transportation time to also work on things during that time as well. So that's all in there for you to review. The third one is we're moving next year to more of a project-based learning environment, and we're going to start pushing that on our early release days. The early release days are already a little shorter, and we feel that's a good day to work on project-based learning. Ms. Reichler has done a great job of brainstorming how this would work at the K-5, and that's where we plan to implement it first. We're going to partner with a software company that is a pretty minimal cost when you look at what it offers. But basically, this software company will basically give our teachers up to 400 different project-based learning activities already prepared. And it takes a lot of that planning out for them, and they can implement it very quickly. And they will tie those to the portrait of a graduate, which is great. So we'll say this project-based learning activity, one of them we saw was creating a backpack business. So say fourth grade, and they have to design a backpack, they have to bring one to market, they have to do the marketing, the advertising, all those things. So that might take 2 months of early release days to get something done. It could take 3 months. But what we're going to do is start using the team rooms over there to do those project-based time periods. We're looking at 1.5 to 2 hour blocks on those early release days. And it would be a team of teachers in there with the kids working in an environment that's very collaborative, hands-on. So we have a long way to go, but we want to be able to put that in the time model to include that as instructional time, even though it's not specifically to one subject, it's cross-curricular. So those are the 3 things we're looking to add.
Okay. All right. Are there any comments from the public on this topic? Guess not. Any comments or questions from the board?
I just wanted to comment on the project-based learning. I love things like this. I think it's enrichment to the education that I think is so important for students and especially for kids. It's a way to keep learning exciting and more hands-on. I know my 7-year-old needs hands-on lessons in order for things to really stick, and so I appreciate kind of an emphasis on something more like that. And my concern with Portrait of a Graduate was how we're going to teach those things, because you can't really teach respect except for through experiences, giving those children the opportunity to show respect. So I think that this does those things. It gives them opportunities to learn those.
And our hope is to probably get it K-8, just so you know. But I want to say K-5 to start. But Dr. Wheeldryer has been also very excited about this, and her teachers, she can't even sit still, but her teachers are as well. So Mrs. McDonald looked it over for a good 2 weeks and came back and was like, this is really cool. I'd love to have this for our Innovate 21 and all of our courses, but things, and they have that library right across the way, so they could do big project-based. We'd probably start using this room for some of the middle school project-based learning as well. They could walk over and have this whole space to be able to spread out and have an entire grade level in here at a time working with all the teachers. So we're excited about it, and we'll bring it back to you in 2 weeks for a vote. Okay?
I have a question.
Sorry.
The defined learning, is that curriculum that we've already paid for?
No, that is the software program that has these in there.
And do we pay a subscription fee?
We would pay a subscription for it. It is, I believe it's under $10,000 for the year, so it's a very affordable product.
Okay.
Yeah, and it would be a capital purchase as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other comments? Okay, hearing none, let's move on. So we need to vote to reconvene the regular meeting. Do I have a motion to reconvene?
I so move.
And how about a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Meeting is reconvened, regular meeting. So the approval of the minutes for our February 5th meeting. And unless there are questions, do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move we approve the minutes for February 5th.
And a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. On to informational reports, starting out with Superintendent Dr. J.
Yeah. President Rakowski, members of the board and guests, thank you again for being here tonight. I have a few things to share. First of all, we're very excited about our winter sports. So boys and girls basketball have both advanced to the quarterfinals of the state tournament, and we're going to be recognizing one of the kids who had a big shot last night. So Sam's in the house to carry the Falcons into the second round here. So the girls beat Valley Sanders earlier this week, and the boys beat Veritas Prep last night in an exciting game. The girls will have a home game on Friday against Pima, and the boys will travel to North Valley Christian for their game. Winners of those games would move on to the Final Four at the Coliseum. So it's really important for the town to get behind these teams. They've been working since summer. We'd love to see you out there. Wrestling, we have 4 wrestlers that qualified for the state tournament. So we have Ava Bourne, Parker Johnson, Tyler Trapani, and Luis Leon. And they'll be this weekend at the state tournament, which is also at the Coliseum. And Ava is the first female wrestler in Fountain Hills history, and she is ranked number 2 in the state, and all of them have a shot at bringing home a title. Ava would be the first state champion girls wrestler in Fountain Hills history. So let's see if we can get out and support Luke and the wrestling team. They've been working really hard this year. I want to thank the PTO. They had the Extreme Science Assembly this past week, and everything. I was unable to attend because I was doing the tour with realtors, but we got to walk by and see it, and the kids reported and the teacher reported that it was very well done. So thank you to PTO for continuously making school fun for our kids. I did a realtor tour with about 30 to 35 local realtors. It's my way of reminding them that we have schools here and that we're really good at what we do, and you don't have to go anywhere else. And so I bring them in every year for a tour, and they really enjoyed it. So this year we just did the middle school and the high school. I did a presentation for them, and I was given my phone number and told them to call me. If they have a family in town that wants to see the schools, I'll come down and open them up for them. So, and they've actually done that before. So I appreciate our realtors coming out every year. This is the 3rd year they've come out for the tour. We had kindergarten registration last night, and Ms. Reichler put that on, and we had a larger crowd than we've had in the past. I'm hoping that it'll quadruple by May, but we'll see. But we're excited, and she did a really nice job of showing the school, giving a presentation, getting parents excited about kindergarten. I also spoke to the town council last night, something I do yearly, and shared with them progress we've made over the last year, including our A letter grade, and the excellent work our teachers, students, and community are doing here at our schools. And then lastly, the 3rd term of the trimester started this week, so high school kids are switching classes again. And I just want to point out that with this new schedule, our kids have done the entire school year that every other school is still doing. They're already done. They did the whole school year by February 14th, which I'm very proud of. So at all the other schools, they're still getting through 2nd semester. We're into our 3rd term, and so our kids will finish with 2.5 more credits, in some cases, than what they need, or at least 1.5. So we're very, very excited about the upcoming term, and before we know it, it'll be graduation. So with that, I conclude my comments.
Thank you. Moving on to district celebrations, and starting out with Little Falcons Preschool. And Ms. Matus, I think I saw you here.
Got my teacher voice. Gretchen, would you like to come up with me? The first person I'd like to recognize is Gretchen Keys. She is working in our preschool with the
Make sure your mic is
3-year-olds.
Or close to the mic. There you go. Thanks.
Then it'll be really loud. I'll deafen everybody. Gretchen Keys is working with our 3-year-olds with Miss Valentino, and
Gretchen is a true team member, always ready to lend a hand wherever she's needed. Dependable, hardworking, Gretchen's dedication shines through in everything she does. Having attended elementary and junior high in Fountain Hills before we had high school, she brings a deep connection to our community. Her love for preschool is evident in the care and enthusiasm she brings to the classroom. With an incredible work ethic and a heart for going above and beyond, she makes a lasting impact on both students and colleagues. It is truly a pleasure to work with Gretchen, and we are so fortunate to have her as part of our Little Falcons team. Congratulations. That's yours, and that's yours. And we have to do a picture. Okay. Nora, do you want to come up with Mrs. Matthews? Come on, sweetie. This is Nora Fritz. Nora is a wonderful student who consistently follows classroom rules and treats her friends with kindness. She is always willing to lend a hand and has shown remarkable growth in all areas. Her independence and self-sufficiency makes her a great role model, and she treats both teachers and classmates with respect. Every morning she arrives at school with a bright smile, ready to learn and contribute positively to her classroom environment. Nora is a true Falcon. Respectful, responsible, safe, and kind. Congratulations, Nora.
Okay, next up is McDowell Mountain. Ms. Reichler?
Hello, Leslie. So I'm happy to announce Ms. Rebecca Singer as our dedicated help aide as Falcon of the Month. Rebecca's kindness and compassion shine through in everything she does. Her famous magic water is just something that is so popular with the kids. It's just water with a little food coloring, right? Just a little bit. And she comforts them with her amazing smile and kindness whenever they walk through her door. She's truly in the thick of it, providing exceptional care to our students and building strong relationships with our school and community. We appreciate her delicious homemade treats as well. Still waiting for it. Yeah. She has a witty sense of humor. If any of you know her, you got to come and hear her. She is just so much fun to be with, and we all just love her. Her upbeat personality and funny jokes brighten our day. Her dedication to our students' well-being makes her a true Falcon hero, and we're proud to celebrate all of her contributions. We love you. I'm trying to get her to give me her chocolate chip scone. It's really good.
And I have said
And
I'll
they're
give it to
warm.
her, but I have to kill her afterwards.
They're really warm on Monday morning.
Have you raise your hand over here, Rebecca?
Yeah, it's easier if you stand.
All right, next up we have Miss Cleo. is fun. This is the fun part of school. Ready? Okay, so Miss Cleo is a first grader, and she is our Falcon of the Month. Cleo is a respectful student who always completes her schoolwork successfully and takes her learning seriously. She has an excellent manners and is kind to everyone she meets. Cleo is always willing to help others, and she plays safely on the playground, and she's always happy out there. I see her smiling. She's a wonderful role model for other students and truly shows the Falcon way of being respectful, responsible, safe, and kind. So congratulations, Miss Cleo. Wait, one more.
Okay, on to the middle school. Dr. Wheeldryer.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. So I know for my staff person, she couldn't be here today. She's celebrating her birthday and her anniversary, but I know she is watching on YouTube. So this goes to Holly Delano, our new English teacher. Hello, Holly, out there. We are recognizing her tonight, and she is also new to our district this year. And with that, she has already made a lot of connections. Because she lives in the town, and so this kind of worked out perfect for her. She has built some very good relationships with her students and her families, as well as her staff. She's always open to ideas and has already embraced the Beardian way of teaching English. Which is, her patience and kindness is very welcoming and supportive. In her classroom, she holds every student to the highest level. She values their work ethic because each student, they don't learn the same way. And she has always come to me to ask for some guidance because of my background in working with kids and accommodating their learning. And so she has definitely welcomed that into her classroom. And so she is also, with this trimester schedule, has helped her think outside the box. She's teaching another class, digital communications, because of her class sizes were too small, so she opened up to that. So we appreciate her for just kind of doing something a little extra to help out our students in electives. So we thank Ms. Holly Delano for all that she is doing for our students at Fountain Hills Middle School, and that's why we are recognizing her. So, wish she was here. Good job, Holly. See you tomorrow. Okay, so I have to do a drum roll. This is for Braylon. Wow, this young lady, she's a 7th grader. I know, she's tall. She always reminds me of how much taller she is. But she has come a long way since we've met. She has been recently introduced to the I-21 program. And with that, she has quickly adapted to it. She has been cooperative. She works very hard to do very well. At first, she was like, I don't know about this. But you know what? It has changed her. She's so kind and respectful to her classmates, her teachers, her learning. And with that, we are so happy with her progress. It's, right, Mom? Dad?
Yeah. We're so proud of her.
This is where you think outside the box, right? You go, well, if it's not working here, let's try to find something that will work for her. And let me tell you, her kindness, her positive attitude with accepting these different higher levels of learning, she's embraced it, she participates, she completes her work, and with that, she is scoring A's and B's. Yes. She has definitely risen to the challenge, and we're so excited about her eagerness to thrive and do well. And yes, Braylon, you demonstrate the Falcon way, and I appreciate all that you've done. Oh, I need to give you the certificate. You're going to hold it correctly. Okay. So this goes for you. This is for you. All right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Can you hold it a certain way? Come here. Congratulations. Oh, wait.
Come on over to this side. Are you ready? Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, high school, Mrs. Pinto.
Good evening. For my staff member, I'd like to call up Coach Pete Skirmahorn. Say that last name 10 times fast. Skirm, exactly. So Coach has been instrumental in rebuilding our football program at both the high school and the middle school levels, ensuring that student athletes develop not only their skills on the field, but also their character and discipline off of it. At the high school, his leadership has been transformational, creating a culture of hard work, accountability, and excellence. He pushes his athletes to be their best, both in competition and in the classroom, always emphasizing the importance of academics alongside athletics. He instills strength and resilience in middle school students during their first period weights class and last period flag football class. At the high school level, he is a driving force behind the development of student athletes, always challenging them to grow. He leads with honesty, offering students straightforward advice and guiding them towards the best path for their future. His reliability and dedication are unmatched, whether it's showing up after a long flight from Michigan or keeping his word no matter the challenge. Coach Skirm follows through with every commitment. Beyond athletics, he plays a crucial role in academics, teaching the AVID program and ensuring students are prepared for their future. He even takes his AVID students on an annual field trip to ASU, which happened today, giving them the opportunity to explore higher education. His after-school powerlifting club is open to all high school students, further reinforcing his commitment to student growth. Coach Skirm is more than a coach or a teacher. He is a mentor, a role model, and an unforgettable presence in the Falcon family. His passion for student success, both on and off the field, is truly inspiring. We are incredibly grateful for his dedication, leadership, and continued commitment to our students. Congratulations. Show your certificate. One more. And for our student, Sam Barnard, please come up. Sam exemplifies the true spirit of a student athlete, balancing his academic goals, multiple sports, and a job with unwavering dedication. His work ethic is inspiring, and his positive attitude makes an impact on those around him. Always respectful and personable, he never fails to greet others with kindness, often adding a joke that may not always land, but that's part of his charm. On the athletic side, Sam pushes himself to be his best, breaking school records and earning recognition as one of just 125 medallion honorees at the prestigious 36th Annual Ed Doherty Awards ceremony. His achievements are a testament to his perseverance and passion. Sam's future is undoubtedly bright, and we have no doubt he will continue to accomplish great things beyond high school. We are incredibly proud to have him as part of our Falcom family.
Don't spend it all in one place.
Congrats, Sam.
Okay, now.
Now she wants us over this way.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, next up is District Office and Transportation. Dr. J, I presume?
Nope, we have Ray here today. Ray's
Oh,
going
okay.
to do this, our Director of Transportation.
Come on up.
Good evening. This is John Stafford. He's our primary sports bus driver. I've known John for quite a few years. I worked with him when I was a mechanic there and fleet management. And he's got a lot of wisdom that he brings to the table. Wealth of knowledge, not only in his excellent driving skills and his personality. He's quite the jokester. You probably can't tell. But he's also a true professional. On those long away trips, the middle of the night, up and down the hills, to Flagstaff, to Yuma, to Marana, wherever we're going. He's also an instructor in the fire safety industry. He's always willing to do anything necessary to get the kids where they need to be safely and on time. He adapts to challenges easily with a smile on his face. He takes great pride in his job, keeps a very nice, clean bus. His pride is the Falcon bus. The students and coaches all seem to love having Mr. John drive them. I'm honored to know him as a professional and on a personal level. He's an inspiring and uplifting individual. He truly deserves to be part of the Falcon of the Month Club.
Yes. Congrats.
Did I not give you a certificate? Oh my gosh. Hold on.
We're always last.
There you go. And then you get a gift card from PTO and one of our Falcon coins. Okay, my apologies for that, John. Okay, let me get the phone. Now, let's take pictures.
No? Dr. J? with the other
Yes, so
person?
for the
Okay.
district office, we have Steph Beck. Where's Steph? Come on down. Well, I got to speak over here, and I chose to speak about you, so without anything written, this is, Steph is the face of the Fountain Hills School District. So When you come into the district office or the middle school, who greets you. She has always got a smile on her face. She works extremely hard, and she truly loves her job. And there's nothing that makes me more excited as in leadership is when you have people in the organization that love what they do and love their job. Her willingness to take on more is always there. She's always willing to step in when we need something done. And she's always had a dream of having the Second Chance store. And when she came and pitched that idea, the answer was immediately yes, because I knew she would take it to a whole nother level. We may have to open another wing of a building for her, but she's really turned it into something amazing for the kids. The kids get to shop. They get to come in and pick out amazing items. It's a community builder. The kids appreciate it. And so, for example, if they need something and maybe they can buy, maybe they can't, they can get it from the store because Steph has thought about them. So continue to bring things in for her. She's really taken it to the next level. But her kindness, her knowledge of students, her knowledge of the district, everything she does, it just turns to gold. So we're so thankful you've been with us so long, and we hope you stay for forever. All right?
Well, it's all you guys that have made the store happen. So we have a big donator right here that is getting computers and trips and everything for kids.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta move over.
I heard. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, senior presentations. Who's doing that?
Ms. Pinto?
Okay.
No, I'm not doing that.
Well, you can introduce.
I just want to help.
So while they're setting up, for those of you that may not know, we have a senior internship program in the district where every senior is required to either do a senior project or do a senior internship with a business within the Chamber of Commerce. So Betsy is a longtime resident and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Her and I met a couple years ago and talked about this, and we were able to be one of the only districts I know of, if not the only one in the state, that offers this program. And our seniors go out, they do about 40 to 60 hours in a business, and then they do additional hours throughout the year in their advisory period. They write resumes, they work on interviewing, they do skills inventories. And now with the new program we have, School Links, they're going to be able to research colleges and programs that they want to go into. So we thought it was best that every year for the board to see the hard work that you have approved us to do with the senior internship. And we have a presentation, one or two tonight, Barry? Just one tonight. All right, take it away.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Adeline Stousen, and this is my senior internship project. There I am. So the company that I did my internship was Tidy Guys and Sunblock. It's one owner, two different companies. So an overview of my internship was just general housekeeping, day-to-day tasks, just daily cleaning and tidying things and things like that. So, and then promotional design and interior design. So I completed 1 year of interior design at EVIT last year. And so that helped me in a lot of ways, just learning how to do digital promotion and things like that, just adding different ideas together. And then organization and decorations. I put decorations just for special events I would help set up. For leadership, so helping others get on task. I wrote down, so if I would arrive to my internship before anyone else did, I would just go ahead and ask my boss what I had on my list that day. So when everyone else arrived, I was prepared to help guide them to their task. Taking charge, I just took every opportunity I could to incorporate my interior design skills and digital promotion skills and creating really cool things. Critical thinking, so if a customer came in and my boss was occupied working with someone else on a call, working on a car, something like that, I would just step in and use my customer service skills and help them with what they needed. And let's say I made a designed a product for him for promotional design and he didn't necessarily love my initial design, I would just go ahead and make multiple different options for him to choose from instead of just one plain one. I would just incorporate really cool ideas and yeah. For communication, instructing others, on just what to do. Like I said earlier, if I arrived before anyone else did, I would just take charge and help them in those aspects. And then if there was a problem, I would step in and help them. And relational, again, using my customer service, introducing myself to customers, introducing customers to my boss, and just getting a feel for everyone out there. Responsibility. So I was raised just, if you're not on time, then you're in big trouble, so make sure to show up on time. I would always strive to show up early, but again, latest would be on time, if anything. So being prepared, just arriving to work, ready to get my tasks done and check off my list for the day, being organized, making sure everything I did with professionalism and just organization and incorporating those really important skills. I feel like if you're not going to do something right at all, just don't do it. So that's just my take. And then being responsible even if no one else was there with me. Just, again, if I was doing work in that day or if my boss ran an errand, I would just be responsible with my task. And then some of the ways that I was responsible with, I had to fold towels every single day. I bet I folded a couple thousand over the whole entire thing, but yeah, it just taught me a lot of responsibility, even like the smallest things, just being very responsible and neat with those. I was responsible by planning my day around the time I was expected to show up, and just, yeah, getting there, just putting on my professional face and getting my work done was a lot of responsibility, but it was really good lessons. So some of my self goals, as I said on my slide, I wouldn't consider it a traditional job or maybe even as common of a job goal these days, but I strive to be a full mom someday. I think that's a really, really important job in this life, and if not the most important job, because you're raising kids, you're raising generations, and like you're the impact on their life and society, so I think that's a really important thing. So to tie in my internship, I learned, again, just to be very organized with even the smallest things, doing things when I didn't want to do them, and then I learned I wasn't as patient as I was, just working with different people that I wasn't used to working with, so that was a really good lesson. And then I kind of incorporated my critical thinking with my problem solving. I feel like they go hand in hand. Just, again, if my boss didn't necessarily love one of my designs, I would critique it, add his ideas, add my ideas, just incorporating different ideas to make the best product possible. So yeah, all in all, I feel like I learned the value of responsibility, accountability. I learned how to work efficiently. I learned a lot more customer service skills and amazing things of just, putting my creativity out there and doing things I wouldn't expect myself to do. So, yeah, that's my presentation.
Then I have some questions. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the board?
I just have some comments. I'm so impressed. I think that it was a neat way to approach a job because you also brought your own unique twist to it, especially something that it seems like you're passionate about. And I love that you used the opportunity to gain skills that even as a mom you can use and that as a mom you may need to rely on someday. And I love that you have that attitude towards motherhood because taking someone that's super skilled and has a lot to offer the world and instead offering that to your family, there's a lot to be said about that. So I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Excellent job.
Thank you.
I'll agree. Excellent job. And I will just add to your comments and just say that being a mom or a dad is one of the hardest jobs you'll ever have. So
Yeah.
I think it's great that you were striving towards that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ditto, it doesn't get any easier as you get older either.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
All right, thanks. Okay, next up is the student activity and auxiliary account, starting on page 27 of our packet here. If there's any comments or questions on that?
I had one, and I do appreciate the explanation page that offered part of the explanation, I guess, because it did account for the fact that the baseball account negative has been zeroed out through a journal entry. But that doesn't mean it was an incorrect negative, right? It just means that it went negative and we fixed it so that there's not a problem with it having been negative. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so is there a reason that it went negative, or is there a plan in place?
My guess is it's a one-digit difference in the code, so it was probably an error, but the reason I look at these once a week is just another set of eyes. So when we ran the report, again, it's, as I've said, probably ad nauseum every week. I do these on the last day of the month, and it's a snapshot, so I can't.
So you can't see at the point where it went negative and what caused it to go negative?
It depends. I can look back and see what the expense was. My guess is, again, that it was coded 925 instead of 926. So,
Okay.
again, having entered these numbers over and over, and it can get tedious. So, again, once we notice a mistake, we correct it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No? Okay. So moving on, next is the unaudited financial report, starting on page 37 and 38. Any questions or comments on that? Or any comments from you, Mr. Hartman?
No, just we're on summary, between the summary of ops and the student activities. Again, I want to thank my team. Lots of cleanup, and like I said in my explanation, the M&O balance now back in the positive, even with the sped encumbrances. So we are on our way, and just thanks again to Craig, Megan and Annette from Maricopa County, Val, everybody in the office. If you see them when you're on campus, please say hi, and they're just a great team to work with. So it's been a lot of hard work, but we're getting there.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, public comments. Do we have any tonight, Krista?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to do the reading?
Sure. Okay. Call to the public. This is the time for the public to comment. Time limits may be allocated on public comment at the discretion of the board president for the board to efficiently complete its business. The board reserves the right to prohibit any comments made in a discourteous or threatening manner. Complaints about specific individuals, students, or personnel are discouraged. Personnel issues should be directed to the appropriate staff member or administrator per district policy. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date.
Thank you. Okay, our first public comment is from Dr. Ann Evans, I think. Okay, I can read your writing here. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you for having me. My comments are being addressed as a psychologist and a former substitute teacher here. I am very concerned about students' cell phone usage during classes, and I know that's coming up as an agenda item. A couple things I wanted to share. 72% of high school teachers say cell phone use during classroom is a distraction and it's a problem they don't know how to handle. One of the difficulties is a lot of schools have policies about cell phone use. during class, but they don't have any way to enforce it, nor should the teachers really be policing. They really need to teach. So I think we need to do something about it that's more like a ban. Here are the reasons for not having them used during classroom. They're distracting. They disrupt learning. They're used for cyberbullying. There's a problem of academic dishonesty, possibility, privacy concerns. The other, I think, important thing to know is that 60% of US adults are concerned about this as well. I don't know the answer for exactly where you would put the cell phones and how you do that, but I think it's being done in 8 states and they've figured it out, so I think we could do it as well. One other thing I wanted to share. The New York governor is introducing legislation this year to ban the use of cell phones, specifically iPhones, during school. She cites the problem of social media and technology cutting students off from human connection, from social interaction, and from normal classroom activity. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Courtney Wilson. Three minutes.
Thanks. I was not preparing to talk here today. Thanks for having me, though. So I'm just a concerned parent. As we all got our letter out from Dr. J about student enrollment and focusing on kindergarten, it got me talking. I'm also on the soccer board, so I am trying to be as involved in the town as possible. I was talking with quite a few of those moms as they have recently pulled their children out of this district and asked why. Their main answers are clubs and extras. So I started doing a little bit of deep diving. I know the preschool has added in Twinkle Toes or the soccer shots for after-school programs, which parents physically pay for their children to get involved in. I don't know the rules behind all this, but I am concerned about enrollment. I want this school to succeed, and I know that the amount of money that Scottsdale's getting for our kids that live in this town is, I think last year, 51% of the kids are going down there, which really scares me. What scares me is I love this town, and without the largest employer, where does it leave this town? Sun City, it's not gonna have the economics here as it would. So my idea, and I would love to get going on this in any way I can help, is we need to paint this town blue. Why is the Avenue of the Fountains not, speckled with Falcon flags, with sports members, sponsors, getting names out there? How come I've never seen a proud Falcon parent bumper sticker? How can we get this town to show school spirit, and we can get the sponsorships for the taxes and all of your guys' great returns out there? I know there's simple little ways that we can do it, whether it's the high school is printing on a social media club and they can do advertising, because I went to my first basketball game and I had a blast, but I never know when the schedule is. I've not seen it posted out there. I want the school, I guess my vision would be to see the school and the town work together. If the Fountain Hills baseball is having a hard time getting fields because the town has it rented out, why aren't we using these beautiful fields? Why can't we rent it out to that little league? Why is Extravaganza not at McDowell Mountains, big, huge, beautiful, grassy area? And it has parking that's not on the street, all these things. How can we get the town and the school to work together? If they're the largest employer, or if you are the largest employer, and this town needs to support it so we can strive and focus our enrollment on getting those prominent families back to school, which will inevitably have kindergarten be full again.
Thank you.
On the spot.
Okay, moving on to our action items, starting out with personal action. Let me get this back on my screen here. So, personnel action on page 39. Any questions or comments about that?
I just had one question, and I did speak with Kane previously, so I just love this, the explanation out there. Because there were a lot of resignation of teachers and several that I've seen in action and that I love. And so I just wanted to know if these teachers had any feeling that their job was not safe and that they were not going to be renewed and felt inclined to leave ahead of time, or if this was just purely.
A lot of them are moving.
Okay.
Somebody's going overseas for a year, travel to Europe, which is amazing, so, yeah.
Okay.
I will say,
Every single one of them, so.
Okay.
yeah, I will say
There's a
you're,
couple that I'm like, don't go.
I know, I feel the same way.
Yeah, okay.
you're seeing them now because of the fact that we started our surveys much earlier this year, knowing we have budget reductions that we have to do. And so we asked teachers, if you know for a fact, like you're not returning, and like she said, a few of those are moving. There's one at least, if not two, that are not coming back to the profession at all. Like they did a year and it wasn't for them. So those things happen. We try our best. We had this year I offered all year, once a month, a new teacher training cohort where they could come meet with me once a month. And, if they were having concerns or issues, things of that nature, I could take care of it for them on the spot. So it's tough to always see anyone who leaves the profession or moves away, but I can assure you that the timing of these are in relation to the budget.
Okay. I do appreciate the transparency, and I also appreciate the effort to maybe absolve some of the budget cuts in through attrition and through just
Yes.
finding ways like that. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? No? Okay, I'll move that we approve the personnel action report. Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Next up is the new course proposal for AP Pre-Calculus, which we heard about at our last meeting. Any comments or questions about that?
Super excited about it.
Okay, who would like to move to approve?
I move we approve the new course for AP Calculus.
How about a second? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, AP Calculus is approved. Next up is the award of contract for a request for proposal, real estate broker services. And do we have a representative of the company here? Yeah. So I just had, I guess, a comment to start out. I looked through the satellite plats in that, and I think two of the properties were based on current zoning. I know we're not really up to approve the zoning, but just from I guess personal experience with the town, and I imagine you're aware of this, that having a change of zoning would be very difficult to accomplish. So hopefully whatever's looked at is something with current zoning to enhance the chances of someone actually buying the property and using it. So.
All of the home builders and people we'll be working with are very seasoned, and we'll work with the city. A lot of the evaluations are contingency, but we do want to do those site plans on what the current zoning is, and then hopefully we can work with the city to get more density so that you can get a better valuation for your property. So we will work with the city, create good relationships, and hopefully get the best, most density we can on each of the sites.
Yeah, and part of that too is realizing the neighbors probably don't want higher density than what,
yes,
like the
all
Four
have
Peaks
to say,
property, it
that's
looked
for
like
sure.
it was very dense, and I feel the neighbors are not going to like that.
Yeah.
So you don't want to tick
We are
off the
very
neighbors.
aware.
Okay. Other questions or comments? No? Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the award of contract for a request for proposal to real estate broker services?
I so move.
How about a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is approved.
Thank you.
Next up is the supplemental reading list for the various schools. And this is starting on, where are we at here? I'm scrolling down.
46?
Yeah, 46.
46, there we go. Okay. Any questions or comments about the supplemental reading material?
I just have a comment. I wasn't part of the board when this went up for people to review, but I guess I'm just wondering if the lists are always this long, if it's always this much books at a time that go up for review? And how often we're putting that many books up for review?
I would say that if the large lists come from basically the librarians. I sit on part of that group, our literature group that looks everything over, and the teachers rarely bring things. If they do, it's the novels you've seen, the ones here and there. So the large lists come from pretty much Ms. Pennington at the elementary school, and she does help make sure the middle school library is up to date as well. The high school library is a different story. Like I've shared with you, the kids, everything's digital at that level. We have books, they don't use them often, but at the middle and elementary, she does still do that. So I think that's the reason behind that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't read them all?
No, I worry that putting that many books up at a time for, I mean, we know that we don't have people reviewing the books right now. But I think when you see a list that is that long and people have busy lives, it's even more discouraging for them to come and review them. So I'm just wondering if it had to do with, the money's available during this time or part of the year, so that's when the list gets created, or if there's an opportunity to kind of space it out a little more.
Yeah, she can certainly do that. It's nothing, I think it's just more of, she works on it, brings it to the group, and we review it, and if there's concerns, she's very good at going through the books and saying like, this one may have an issue, so let's talk about it. But I don't think it's anything to try to push anything past anybody. I think it's just more for her. She's probably very busy and has ideas, and she wants to get them ordered in the library for the kids. So, but I can have her try to space it out throughout the year if that would be beneficial.
I just think it's worth a try, just to see if that causes people to come in and review the books a little more often.
Did I recall in the past, it was only once or twice that it happened, there was a long list like that?
Oh,
Usually
okay.
it's a few.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it is really with the big list does come from the elementary school, so a lot of them are like picture books.
Right.
There are a few of the chapter ones, but I think she kind of, at least from what I've noticed, I think she kind of tracks what's trending or what's, like there's biggest names in music, and so it's some, she's kind of, I think, tracking what's going and adding, because I think this has only happened a few times with the big list from the elementary.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the supplemental reading list?
So moved.
And a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the supplemental reading list is approved. Next is the pickleball agreement. And I do have a question here. Ms. Goodman? Yeah, come on up. Okay, so for us on page 51 of our agenda here, it states pickleball court fees between $40 and $54 per hour, depending on the type of organization that's doing this. So my question kind of relates to, do you have an idea of how many hours per week your group uses the pickleball courts?
Okay.
It's roughly per week, per month, anything?
7 days a week? 7 days a week. 10 hours?
Yeah, but.
So does that mean like 80 hours a week or roughly? Okay. Because if we do looking at the $2,500 per month and using the $40 per hour, that would relate to 15.6 hours a week. So if the club is using it 70 hours or so a week, my concern is that that amount is not in keeping with our normal rental fee.
First of all, I don't think that fee was ever put into place.
It is part of the fee schedule.
Well, can I chime in? From what I believe, the reason that we haven't really maybe stuck to that rate is because you guys have taken over all of the maintenance and dates and things like that. So your cost is more than that. That's just what you pay to us for using the space, but you're also covering, we're not having to maintain the space, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so the whole time that they've used the space, they've paid for all of the upgrades and everything to maintain that space, correct?
Correct.
So I guess my question was, how much of the time do we use the field or the courts? And do we have other people that are willing to pay us to use it? Because I'll agree that the $2,500 per month, I was like, if you look competitively, that definitely is not what you'd find elsewhere, but at the same time, you're maintaining them for us and upgrading them and doing all that. So to me, it's not necessarily a loss unless it conflicts with ways that the school district would want to use the field or times that we would want to use it, but that's written into the contract as well.
Just one comment about the fees, that line item in the whole list of all the fees that were there predates myself. There was years ago, way before my time, there was an IGA with the town, and the school, and the courts. And at the time, they thought that they may wind up wanting to rent them. That has never happened. So we had even asked that they just take that out of there because it wasn't even an issue. It stayed in. It's never really been affected, used, entertained at all.
Oh, so you're saying the IGA that we have with the town currently includes that?
No. Our agreement, when we went to the town and the parks and rec and everything else, they decided they didn't want any part of this anymore.
Okay.
So that's why we had asked at the time that we just take that out, in general, because there wasn't going to be a 3-4-way agreement anymore. We only provide insurance to you as a school. The town, mainly because they were entertaining, building their own courts, and et cetera, and just dealing with that. So they said, do your own thing. So we didn't, quite honestly, I didn't even know it was still in there. And we just did that when we were putting this document together, this kind of, where we are, how we got here kind of thing. Decided we better put that in there. But, for all intents and purposes, we had never expected it to be executed.
Okay.
Our concept of what we were proposing in the final revised agreement was purely based on the fact that for all these years we'd been paying nothing for all intents and purposes. And, it would be a huge leap of faith to say we were going to, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to be able to use the courts or have the courts as we've had them for so many years. So we're trying to come up with, we went back after the last meeting and said, all right, let's look at a escalated schedule of payments. We're looking at, what's the total day, about $125,000? I'm trying to think over the couple-year period, just to get you some money, to start to use for whatever purposes you see the best fit to use the money, and just extend our agreement out and use this escalation over the next 4 years, I believe.
January was $217,500 if it was signed through December of 30.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Everybody that's a member pays a certain fee, you said, which was fairly minimal for people playing pickleball. And then on top of that, they're paying the rental every hour that they're playing.
No.
Okay.
They just purely pay one fee for a year. It's a fiscal year for our fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the use of the courts. There are no additional fees except for specific events or functions that we run within the tournament for members only. Whether it be a tournament, round robin, those type of things. Those are the only other fees that we charge.
So how were you able to save enough money to do all the repairs and put the lights and everything?
That's, I mean, it's been built up over the period of time. You know, we spend a significant amount of money on maintenance. We have a year-end event that we do not charge the members for. We are accumulating this for a building fund or a general maintenance fund, not only for the new lights that we're expecting to do, but within a couple of years, we're talking about resurfacing again, and we're talking about new nets, we're talking about new windscreens, we're talking about new everything. And
Jen, can I just address the comment that she made about how we have paid? 16 members of the club donated, loaned the club $5,000 each with a no-interest loan for us to build the additional 2 courts. And then over the next 4 years, with the membership money, those people were paid back. So that's how those funds were created to build the 2 courts.
the addition of 2 courts. And I think that if you don't have a list, we had provided the, prior to Dr. Jade joining, we had a whole list of expenses that we paid, which are $150,000 to $200,000 over the period of time since we've been involved. And, you know, we're just looking to try to make what we think is a fair deal. I mean, I can't conceivably see changing the entry fee, if you will, or the registration fee, the membership fee, significantly where there's not additional member benefit, not existing member benefit. You know, like right now, like I said, we're building our building fund. You know, in the event that we wind up with an option to build at some point, which seems to be not really doable, not in my future, I don't think anyway, but.
So if this agreement was made, are you still, I mean, I guess is this money that's coming from that building fund, or would you still be having a building fund hoping to eventually vacate
The
this?
first chunk, the first couple, chunk without additional member revenue would definitely be coming right out of our building fund. Which, maybe puts the lights off a little bit, but not necessarily, for the following year. One thing I can say is we do not intend to increase membership numbers. We do expect a turnover as we have every year, but we don't expect to go more. Right now, we're busting at the seams with playtime, if you will, and just, people can't get out of courts.
So your current fees are $100 a year, is that correct? Is it currently $100 a year membership?
Correct.
Is there any thought to increasing that to be more in line with other organizations that I think charge a whole lot more?
Well, again, one of the things that we mention in here is part of the reason that some of the other facilities potentially charge more is either they're part of not an HOA, but
A health club.
Like Fire Rock. Fire Rock pays whatever they pay a month. They have use of the courts. I don't believe they pay extra, but that's there. In theory, we have no parking. We have no washrooms. We don't have a lot of the amenities. We certainly don't have water. I mean, we have literally everybody's on their own, if you will. So it's not the same as a country club environment where you get those amenities. And I don't know, quite honestly, that there's any other place like us around. The courts in Scottsdale are public, not all of them, but the public courts there also. They have facilities there, but they don't charge any fees or anything. Those are public. Same thing at the Four Peaks. We're very happy that the 3 new courts have opened. And again, I expect at some point, if we decide that we can find some place to build, we will have to increase our fees. The members would need to understand what they're getting for that. you know, and right now, we're trying to build the story within to tell them why we're looking at taking the first 30 out of the fund that they're expecting for, you know, general maintenance, just to create the relationship with the school district that we want to have.
So a question maybe for Mr. Hartman. So this money would go into M&O, or where would it go?
This
It's
would
flexible
be,
spending,
this would be
isn't it?
gifts and donations, so, or actually, I'm taking that that'd be rental.
Yeah, which is
Rental.
flexible, correct? We can apply it.
Could be used for M&O?
That's what I was going to
Use it
say.
for whatever.
Rentals is very flexible, so
Okay.
in essence, it would be like.
Any kind of income is a little bit more flexible when it's not tied to
Okay.
it.
So they for years did a donation, that's why I had on my mind donations. And now
Right.
this would be a rental, and yes, rentals are very flexible. So you can offset, you know, like a possible capital or M&O purchase with the rental fees that come in, yes.
Okay. And then we also had discussed about having the middle school have access to some recreational area. Would this amount of money allow us to make that a reality, or is it enough?
Depends on how big you want to go, Dr. Rakowski. Yeah, I mean, I will say that any funding coming in can help with that project because, as I'm going to share tonight, we have thresholds that we try not to go under with our capital and M&O and things like that. So right now, we're not spending any capital the rest of the year unless it's absolutely necessary to stay above that threshold. I do know that the PTO is also working with me on the possibility of some kind of donation towards basketball courts as well, and I did have a conversation with them this morning about that. So yeah, I think any amount of money coming into rentals is always beneficial to, whether it's a project like that or to the athletic department. They may need to replace the padding on a dugout, or they may need to fix something in the gym, and when you have rental money like that available, that can sometimes fill a need so Chris doesn't have to pull it out of an account that could go to something else.
Okay. Other comments?
I'm fairly supportive of where we're at right now with this. I think it is good for the district. It's good for the club. I think it's good for the community to see that the club is actually contributing to the district for the use of the courts, especially with the district, looking at budget cuts and things like that. So I think, all of that is great. My one concern, which is one I keep bringing up, is if pickleball becomes a AIA sport, could we have a line item in here about that and what that would mean? I mean, we would need to have access to at least a couple of the courts or something during some time period when that sport practices or whatever. So that's my concern, and mainly because we're extending it for 5 years, and pickleball has become so popular. I could see something like that happening in the last 2 years of this agreement.
I agree. I will say that I think it's very forward-thinking to think about that, because I know students have expressed interest in our student advisory board. We asked them, we had a 3-on-3 basketball tournament earlier this year. We said, what would you like to do next? And one of the things that came up was pickleball. So I do think that could happen. Right now, I believe currently in our agreement, the school can use the facilities when given proper notice. Is that correct?
Yes, it's what it says in your time of use. School premises shall not be available on such occasions or during such hours as have been scheduled in advance by various school principals for school exercises or function in connection with regular schoolwork.
Right. So that would obviously stay in there, but I think that is something to consider, and you all may need to consider that too, is if it did become an AIA sport, there would be no other option but our own courts to use. So that is, possibility that I don't know, but it definitely could become a sport.
Well, and if it does, we might just ask you guys to sponsor a club.
And again, it doesn't rule out the ability to put courts in the gym. You know, to put lined-off courts for, I mean.
Well, it would
usually-
depend on the season, because we have middle school
Agreed.
and high school.
I'm just saying, I don't want to take that out of the equation, that there are many, many indoor pickleball courts.
Yeah.
True.
And
So it would depend on when they pick the season of sport. My guess would be in the winter when it's cooler out, because they're not probably going to play in the fall and possibly the spring. It could possibly be in the spring. But if it's in the winter, you're in the middle of boys and girls basketball and wrestling, and those are all gym sports. So I think it's something that if you're willing to, put that in the agreement, you cross that, bridge when it comes. I don't know if it would ever come.
I don't know what you want us to put in the agreement.
I mean, the only.
If it comes, we'll discuss it? Or
Well, I
is
think
it
their
something we
concern,
guarantee something?
well, I think their concern is if you have an agreement through a time period and then it becomes a sport, there's interest from the high school kids to play, and then they need to use it, does the agreement, does the line that we already have in there, does that suffice for them having a 2-hour practice every night during pickleball season? That's, I think, the question that would need to be answered.
Okay, so.
And again, this is there's not even talk about it at this time. I mean, I haven't heard a word about it, but 5 years?
There's no plans for the Olympics at this point.
So
Sure.
just.
Well, and it's a big jump from going to no team to having a full team. It's more likely that it becomes something that's popular, and maybe at that point we'd have like a club or something that then gains interest. So I think we're not looking at running into this issue too soon. I do like that we have that time of use in there, just in case we want to use it. Of course, it's giving you guys a heads up, and I would think that through the relationship that we build, it wouldn't be, I mean, even if there was a team, I doubt they'd be practicing 2 hours every night. It might be a couple nights a week, but hopefully there's a way to work it out that if that ever happened, we would still be giving you more than enough time on the courts, but maybe be able to serve our students still, because that is our stewardship.
Yeah, and we're more than, willing to visit this if and when, all right? I will tell you that the woman who is responsible for this is a member of our club, she's on the International Olympic Committee. She's not very hopeful.
For the Olympics.
That it'll become Olympic.
And not at the moment. I'll bring her out, you guys can talk to her.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Dr. J, I guess I just have one last question. Do you feel, based off of, I mean, I'm sure you're the one that's heard the most feedback as far as pickleball using our courts. Do you feel that this is fair and that we're going to have any competing offers or anything? I mean, because from what I know, I don't see people lining up to use the courts, but I have heard that,
We've never asked to use the courts as a school, I don't believe, since the agreement's been in place. So that's pretty much a non-issue.
Yeah. We participate in two things. One with return to recess, which Steph is part of. And the other is we're a PTO sponsor. Those are the only two outside things that we've done, and they're both, as far as I'm concerned, town and school related. We have requests all the time for people that want to rent the courts, use the courts as courts. Our 501c doesn't allow for that. So the easy one is we can't do it for anybody, so we don't do it for, one or the other. School's a different story, and I think we'd cross the bridge when we come to it. I mean, and we're more than willing to be reasonable about that, especially if it's evenings, right? That's the easy part.
And has anybody else approached us being willing to pay it $40 an hour to rent these? I imagine not.
No, we don't.
Public comment.
The only real requests we get are typically for our gyms.
Right.
And we do have an agreement in place now that is similar in price, correct?
It is, but they only use it on the weekends.
Yeah, so we do have a club basketball team that uses our gym on the weekends. I'll just say, going back from when I was principal, when this all came to be, there was no use of those courts. They were just sitting there. There was no thought at that time that the middle school would ever move back. Even when I was principal here, which wasn't that long ago, I never ever expected that to happen, and it has. So I think it's just kind of a unforeseen thing that's happened, but I will say that going from, where we started, a $500 a year donation to something like this is massive progress. So, yeah, I mean, I don't make the final call. I'll just say that we have a good partnership with the pickleball. They've always been very respectful, and we've had zero issues with members and students, and zero issues with parking lots. It's been a very good partnership, so I'll just leave it at that.
Does anyone else have comments? Lillian?
No, you're answering everything. I think my concern is more to make this time period a little shorter, just in case something happens. If we, instead of doing it for.
Well, they changed it to 4 years, correct?
Well, we've got two things in here that kind of
Yeah.
allow that flexibility. One is if something happens at the school level.
Right.
And one if something happens at our level. So I don't think the time we're asking is for us to build that up, which will probably include an increase in fees and things like that. That the what if, I think we're both protected in here. Yeah. So hopefully that.
With the 90-day notice is what you're speaking of.
Yeah, there's
Right,
notice on our part, there's notice on your part, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
if,
in the end, we could choose to say, we're gonna do something else with that property, and as long as we give you the 90 days notice, we're covered. That's what the agreement says?
no, what I was, more or less the thought being that if something happened at the school level.
Yeah, where it's
no,
closes or
where the
sold.
school,
Yeah.
where the school is no longer functioning here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And, who's our agreement with? We need to either have the ability to renegotiate with whoever,
Mhm.
or figure, something's going on. On the other hand, if, something happens on our level, like every member decides they're not going to be a member anymore, whatever, we would like to end the agreement so that our, there's no money to pay you.
Right.
I don't foresee that side happening as much as unfortunately the other side. And unfortunately, I'm hoping neither happens.
Right.
And I just want to add, though, if you are voting tonight, this has not been reviewed by our council at this time. So if it is approved, you could, decide to do that with pending approval from our attorney that the contract looks correct.
Yeah. And the good news is that he drafted this agreement.
Our attorney?
Well, the original, but
He drafted everything that's not in yellow,
He
which
drafted.
is all the legalese stuff.
Okay, yeah.
The yellow is more or less just the numbers, but that's, so hopefully that would not be an issue. But understand, I would definitely want it done as well.
Okay. Bernie, you have anything?
I move that we accept the proposed contract pending legal review.
Second.
All right, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Didn't bring the checkbook tonight.
All right, pending payment. All right, on to the multiple information and discussion items, starting with the classified work agreement for 2025-2026.
I'm up here with you guys for a while, so I'll
Okay.
just hear if you have questions.
Go to it. Any questions? I don't know if we want to go individually or kind of, all these are kind of related, the first ones
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, in the first one, the only thing that changed was the year.
Yeah.
So.
They're all basically the same, it's just letting you guys review them again, so,
Yeah.
just see.
Okay. Kim?
Are we just talking about the first agreement at this point, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Classified work agreement. Any questions or anything on that would be organized here.
Okay. I don't have any questions regarding that.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the coach agreement. Likewise, any questions or comments on that?
Nope.
No.
And how about the professional contract?
Nope.
No? All good?
Nope.
Okay, moving right along. Work calendars.
That looks good too.
All right. Anybody else?
Something I did want to note for you guys
Sure.
too, that we're really proud of, me, HR, finance, we were able to give our employees with this proposed calendar extra time off, but it doesn't cost us anything. So we were able to keep their same days worked, but give them some extra days, which I broke down on there for you guys. So we're really proud of that because, you know, raises may not be an option, but we gave them more time. So
That's
thank
great.
you. Yeah, we were excited about
Nothing more valuable than time.
Exactly.
And everybody's working enough?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Okay. Any other comments on that or questions? Okay, then let's move on to the pay for performance plan.
I do have questions in this area. And I think obviously I'm new to the board, so it's okay. I guess in reviewing this, I have questions about some of the different zones and some of the things that are in there. For example, in Zone 1, one of the line items that can be chosen as an option to do is parent communications, like a certain amount of frequency. As a board member, I don't think that that should be really an option. It should be a requirement of the job. And by making it optional like that for an incentive plan, what you do is you create a situation where teachers can choose not to communicate with parents, which I know is happening as a parent in the district. So what I would say is we have some teachers that are really great at using Remind and email and communicating and throughout the year. And then we have some teachers that have you sign up for Remind and they never use it. And they don't email. So I wonder if that option in there is driving some of that behavior, as I believe it should be a requirement of the job.
So for these, just so you know, we didn't really change anything the past couple years. This was written before Dr. J and I came on board. A committee meets with Meet and Confer, and they kind of are one and the same, and they come up with what is on here. They're going to come to you with a new one for next year, just so you know. So this is just approving this year. So I'm going to make highlights and everything and give that feedback.
For next year, meaning next school year?
Correct. This is just for this school year because they didn't send one last year for adoption. So we're just using the same agreement from last year.
So until May?
So it's going to be used until May?
Yes.
So all of the teachers already believe they're under this plan?
Correct. That's the one they've been using for, I don't know how many years.
Well,
honestly,
yeah, way before us.
Yeah.
Okay, well then that changes my concern.
But I'm making comments of what you say so that I can send it back to me and let them know.
Because I wouldn't want to change the plan on them at this point, because I know how that feels in my own work when incentive plans get changed.
But let me say
midway.
that I would never, like, that would be very concerning to me as well if someone said, I'm not calling because I'm past this. I think it's in addition to, for example, I used to push really hard as principal positive Wednesday calls, right? So that would kind of fall into this category. So it's not something that maybe you would normally do because you call typically when you have a problem or you have a concern. And so positive Wednesday calls were something I used for this when I was here years and years ago. And they would have to share with me how the call went and share how, and a lot of it ended up with, happy tears, and parents were really excited that it really changed the perception of our school. So I think that's more in spirit of what that is versus like, you don't have to do it. It is a requirement. It is an expectation that you call parents. Yes, there's no doubt about that. But I could see where that looks maybe needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
And we can do that. But just know the spirit of it is really additional communication above and beyond what they normally do. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the principals push that really hard. Ms. Reichler can also attest to that.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so I do have additional questions, which might just drive some of how you're shaping it for next year. I have a concern that in Zone 1, there is an option that they would choose to use a new website for learning. And there's no direction around what that website is, if it's been approved. They just get to do whatever, make whatever decision they want there. so that concerns me. I think that could be tightened up a little bit. In Zone 3, it talks about completing a summer training course. Again, not very tight language there. It's much too general.
Okay.
And so for an incentive, pay for performance type of plan, it needs to be much more specific, or have maybe the types of training that are approved that would qualify. And then the only other thing I noticed, which you guys probably already had on your list to fix, is when the teachers sit down with the principals and go over the performance plan and kind of what they've done, it's broken out by quarter, and I think we're in trimester, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, but you could still do it 4 times a year. It doesn't have to align with the academic calendar, just
Okay.
meaning 4 times a year they talk about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but I mean, an option
To go to 3,
to line
sure.
it up with
Yeah,
that, with the trimester, just so I know in my own performance plan with my company, right, if it lines up with the fiscal year and the, different points, I'm much more aware of driving myself to stay on task so that I have those things accomplished. And then the last thing and this is also due to me being a new school board member, is I wanted to understand better the definition of probationary versus continuing.
Sure. So probationary is anyone who's only been here under 4 years.
Okay.
As a teacher, so we still consider them new probationary teachers. They get an extra evaluation that our continuing teachers don't get. Continuing is anyone 4 years and beyond.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
And that's all the questions I had.
Okay. So, I concur with the comments that Kim made. I had one other one on Zone 1. Near the bottom of the page there, it says, send out a performance survey as follows. Pre-K to 5, send to parents. 6 to 12, send to students. So besides this, is there another performance evaluation for teachers, or is that the only one? Because it seems, again, something that should be more or less standard.
No, we do have an annual actual performance plan, and some of this plan that they have to do, like the money they get at the end of the year, is based off of their completion of this plan and their performance evaluation that the principals do.
Okay, so that's probably the principal, but is there something from parents other than that?
No, and Dr. Rakowski, I put that in. That's one thing we did shift. I think it was year 1 maybe.
Yeah.
I have been trying to get people to take surveys. I think it's important. I think it's good. So I brought it to Meet and Confer, and there was a lot of pushback on doing that. So what I did is I think it was my first year, so I eased into it and said, okay, we'll make it part of performance pay. And this is a way you could earn that by taking that survey and then coming up with 3 areas of growth that you got from the results and put that into action for the next year. So it's a step in the right direction, and it takes a little time sometimes to move an organization to something new that they've never done before. And that's why that's in there.
So maybe the language should be, and make the action steps, do the performance survey and identify 3 action steps. for
Well,
the following year.
if they choose that option, then the principal walks them through how to do that.
all right,
Yeah,
so
but we can make it clear.
Yeah, maybe it's
for sure.
incorporated there. Okay. Anybody else?
Can I just clarify? So you said probationary is less than 4 years and continuing is 4 years plus. And when I look at the classification, the continuing gets 50% and the probationary gets 100%.
What page is that on?
69. So, in my mind, that would be the reverse, right? Because the continuing is a teacher who has more tenure, and the probationary is a teacher that would have less tenure.
Right, but so what that does, and I can go back to the years I did evaluations here. So if you're a developing level, so there's 4 levels to your evaluation. You're unsatisfactory, you're developing, you're effective, and you're highly effective, okay? So when you're developing, that means you have work to be done. You're not effective in your overall evaluation, you have work to do. So if you're a probationary teacher, which means you're new, so this could be our newbie teachers that are only 1 year, 2 years into the profession, and they're developing, the plan has always been set up where they can still earn that full amount because they're new teachers a lot of times, they're new to us, so that could be a lot of shift in the way they've done things in the past. We're continuing, they've been here for 4 or 5 years. If they're still developing, they don't get as much money because they should be effective or highly effective. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Any others?
No.
Okay, so, emergency procurement of a contracted sped teacher.
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Okay.
It's like, no, thank you.
You're off the hook now? Sure you want?
Okay, so we're bringing this to you tonight. Again, when we have, things that come up that we consider were emergency situations, we can bring it to the board, and if the board sees that and approves that, then the audit finding that would not have this be an after-the-fact situation. So what happened here is that as you are aware, we've had very bad luck with contracted sped teachers this year. You've approved them, and we've had a hard time keeping people in those positions. And I do want to say, I do believe we're offering them a really good experience, a good opportunity. But, when you're not bound to a contract like other teachers, they can walk out and take off. So the high school was without a teacher for a while, all right? We found a teacher that could come in, and finding a teacher for sped, even contracted in the middle of the year, is really hard to do. So we found one that Leah really liked and felt very confident about. And so she asked for approval from us to move forward from the budget standpoint. We did. We started the process. Then she went out of town for a funeral. When she was gone, the paperwork had started on our end. It wasn't completed because she left for the funeral. We brought the teacher in to get them started as quick as possible because the kids didn't have a teacher and it had been a period of time. And so when we went back to finalize paperwork, we noticed that the teacher had started prior to the finalization in the budget process. However, HR, working through the contractors, they have all their requirements they need, like fingerprint clearance and all those things. So it was okay for the teacher to be on campus. The process just had not finished due to a funeral for our sped director.
Okay. Questions from anybody?
Who was teaching the class while we didn't have a teacher? Or what
Substitute.
happened with those students? Okay. Like a long-term sub, and what happened with that sub?
I would have to ask Leah. Ms. Pinto, she may, if you want to come up and.
No, I taught a teacher.
Oh, Ms. Pinto taught it. There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
Good job. So that's another reason it was an emergency, because our principal is having to cover that class and can't do her other duties, so, yeah.
Is it a full-time, all-day class?
No.
It's one period a day, 70 minutes, and then going to other classrooms, which our parapros did.
Okay, and so is this teacher going to, are we paying for just a 1 hour class, or?
No,
is it
they
on campus going to the other
teach.
classes?
I covered one period class.
Yeah, and they have one class, but then they push in and co-teach with other teachers throughout the day.
And this person would do that?
They are doing that.
They are doing that.
Yeah, and so far, so good. It's been really good, yeah.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Okay. Moving.
Wait, so do we need to approve this?
No, this is informational. I
Okay.
think we're going to
Are we
approve
gonna
at the next
approve it
meeting.
At the next?
Yes, at
Yeah,
the next
it'll be
meeting.
agenda.
Okay, and it's just to
action
avoid
item.
an after the fact.
Well, yeah, and we do, again, like sometimes in schools, we have to move quickly, and that's what happened here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, budget reductions. Dr. J.
All right, President Rakowski, members of the board and guests, thank you for giving me the time to speak on behalf of what we're proposing is the beginning of the process here with you on budget reductions. You'll have the next couple of weeks to review what I share, provide feedback. If you want to do an additional meeting, you can obviously do that. But today our plan is to give you a big picture of where we're at, a big picture of what we are proposing when it comes to the reductions. And I want to say that first off, I'm disappointed that I'm here today to discuss this. We've worked really hard over the last few years to avoid having these conversations. But as you see, as I go through this today, you're going to see a lot of this is really out of our control, and it's a really tough situation that we're in here due to low enrollment. Okay, so with that, just a little review. So last year we started with budget reductions last year. Going back over the 3 years that I've been here, the first year I was here, the budget was already done, so that was done prior to my arrival. We went, as I shared with you, as a board at the time, as an admin team at the time, we kind of went all in on 23 to try to really turn the tide here in this district. I feel like this work probably could have started 5-10 years ago, but it just was what it was. And in 23, we had our consolidation, we changed up our schedules, we brought in new programs, updated our buildings, did a lot of marketing, and as a result of that, we just have not seen the number of kids coming in that we'd like to see. We've seen a reduction in the kids leaving the district, I believe, over that time, but I just think that you're going to see today, it just comes down to kindergarten classes more than anything is the reason we're here. So in 2024, we reduced administration, we reduced the assistant principal at the high school, we reduced the executive director, Mr. Alexander at that time. He had resigned by that time, but we reduced that position after that. I proposed to go to 2 principals at the time. That was not approved for the middle and high school, to go to one principal for both campuses. We were told at the time, and I totally agree with the thought behind it, is we want to have cuts away from the classroom, so certified was really not on the table at the time. So what we did is we made our reductions in every other area, with probably the biggest hit to our really our maintenance is and custodial. That one took a big hit. But we focused on administration, we focused on support staff, maintenance, and custodial were the main ones during 2024. So to give you a little review, and I'm only going to speak to the years that I've been here in this position that I can speak to. In 2022, as you can see on the bottom right, our total was about 1308. That's kind of where we started when I was coming into this position here. Looking now in 2025, we were sitting at 1103 when I did this presentation, started this presentation about a week or two ago. So if you look at that, you're looking at a minus 205 students from 22 to 25. And most of those are captured, actually more of them are captured in just the fact of seniors graduating and kindergartners coming in. So this is the last 3 years, the difference between the seniors graduating and the kindergartners coming in. So as you can see over the last 3 years, that's a minus 211 students, with last year being a really big group we had 143, I think, seniors. We did a little better than we expected on kindergarten. I think we hit almost 60, but it's still a massive, massive number. Now, one of the things we've been able to do to kind of slow this process down is that we do bring in new students every summer with all the marketing we do and people moving and people looking at our community. So we have slowed that process down. I think that number both these numbers could be higher, but we've done some things to slow it down, especially at the middle school. They've actually had a little bit of growth from students coming back from other schools this year. We've also had, according to Angie Brooks, who does all of our reporting, she sent me when I asked how many students over this time period we lost to move out of Fountain Hills, it was 235 students had moved out of Fountain Hills during this time frame. So that is a big number that I think a lot of people don't realize. And you see it, you just have to look. When you look at the enrollment summaries every time we do that, you'll notice that they're to get to a +2 or a -1, like 27 kids moved around in different directions, and that's kids moving in, moving out. It's a constant, and it was actually Dr. Sweeney's favorite part of the meeting when he would review that. So when you look at the fact that we have more seniors graduating than kindergartners coming in, we've had quite a few students move out of our town, and then we also have competitors. That's a fact. I mean, we have really good schools around us. We have bases in Desert Mountain and Mountain View and Notre Dame Prep and Anasaw. I mean, these are all A-rated top schools, and we're right in the middle of that. So we're constantly under, having to compete to keep our kids. And the way we've been able to do that is through programs like FHU, AB Capstone, Innovate 21, the accelerated program we're bringing to the elementary next year. Those things are helping, but you also have ESAs have come to light in this time. We have 160 kids that are on ESAs in this town. So if all 160 kids were in our schools, we wouldn't be having this conversation tonight. We would be able to probably weather a lot of that storm of the other loss of counts if we had those. So, and we understand, we respect people's choice. We respect the fact that people have lots of opportunities. I'm just saying that, between SUSD, ESAs, BASIS, there's a lot of opportunities for us to have more kids, but that competition is real, and every district's feeling competition from those same types of entities. So it's pretty much everywhere. So if you do quick, 5,000 is a round number we use in school finance. It's not an exact number because you have weights and different kids are weighted differently. But typically 5,000 is a good average number to use. And so you look at a minus 211 kids over the last period of time, that's $1 million less in funding we have. And the problem we have is we're still staffed the way we've been on the certified side, and in some cases the administrative side, where we were, when we had those students. So that's where the problem lies. Okay? So we've also had, like I said, a lack of growth that we were really hoping for. There's been very, very documented in the news that birth rates are down across the country and across, obviously, Arizona. Arizona, especially our town, is primarily a retirement community. I can tell you that when the realtors were here for my tour, they had a business meeting, and during that business meeting, they shared out new listings they had. There was about 12 to 15 listings they talked about. The cheapest home that they talked about during their business meeting was $1.2 million, okay? So when you are a young family with young children, and you're in the first or second tier of your career, and coming up with the down payment for a $1.2 million home and the interest rates and all those things factoring in, it's really hard for young people to come to Fountain Hills. And we've seen that for decades now, where most of our growth that we get from new students coming in are typically at the middle and high school level, where parents are in their second, third job, second home, third home, moving from a state where they were able to cash out and come to Arizona. So we just have not had that type of growth. The town as a whole, the number of kids is shrinking all the time. Total kids, last census I saw, was somewhere around 1,700, maybe up to 1,800, 1,700. So student-age children in the whole town. So that would mean that all the children in Fountain Hills is smaller than the population of Desert Mountain High School. So you have to factor in that we're not seeing a lot of growth, especially at the kindergarten level. Our kindergarten numbers have consistently dropped almost every single year. And this year we've had 55 the last 2 years. I'm hopeful we'll get 40. Now maybe I'm a little low on that, could be 50, but I'm hoping for 40 right now that we get for next year. We'll have 115 seniors leaving, so again, that's a big gap we gotta close throughout. So one of the things that we have noticed over the last couple of years is that our our student to teacher ratio is great. It's fantastic. Like low class size, there's a lot of positives that go with that. From an academic standpoint, I will say that there's a lot of studies that show that smaller class sizes does not necessarily mean higher academics, but it definitely has an impact on teacher fatigue and the amount of students you're responsible for throughout the day. So we've had very low teacher counts for a long time, a lot of very, very small classes. And with the reduction in students over the last 4 to 5 years, we've lost, according to the Attorney General's website, we've lost 20% of our students in the last 4 years. So 20% no longer there. When you're looking at a $10 million budget, you're looking at $2 million in students is no longer available. And we have to start making adjustments so that we don't run out of reserve money down the road. So I presented with you all the teacher counts. So this is McDowell Mountain looking at, we have 55 kindergartners, 61 first graders, 56 second graders. And then as you can see, when you get to third, fourth, fifth, and up, they start to increase. And they weren't always that large because, one, we get some Fort McDowell students in kindergarten. Some we don't get till first grade because they have their own Manchawa school there that they can go to kindergarten with. So we'll pick up anywhere from 5 to 10 Fort McDowell students in kindergarten and then again in first grade. So that factors in maybe a little bit. And then some classes are really small. Second grade is a tiny class. Our 8th graders are a larger class, but our 9th graders were really tiny last year. I think only 80 kids went to high school, 70 something, came out of elementary, middle, and then into high school. And it's just a small cohort. So those things do happen. And so when you look at this, by using creative scheduling, team teaching ideas, things like we've done at the high school, we've been able to reduce class size at the high school tremendously with scheduling, with the trimester, with innovative programs like FHU. We could do some similar things in McDowell Mountain to ensure that teachers don't have massive class sizes, but also reduce the total number of sections in each of these grade levels. It's not going to be possible to continue to have 3 sections at every grade level and be able to maintain our budget. It's not physically possible to do that. At the middle school, they are the tightest on their student counts. They're actually in line with what it should look like, and they have some pretty large classes in certain areas. Now, they have also some areas that are a little smaller, but you can see, like, for example, Class 1, which is Innovate 21 and a couple sections of regular education courses. Those teachers see 148, 151, 154 kids a day. That's normal in any other district. But as you see, some of our other teachers only see 90, 91, and you'll see at the high school it's even as low as 40 a day, which is just not, you can't keep doing that. It's been nice to have, but it's not realistic, okay? You can see that the only thing I want to point out is Spanish, just so you understand what I mean by that. Before we had our band director went on a leave and then resigned and did not come back. So prior to that, we had 49 kids all day in Spanish for 9.8 per class, which is very tiny. After band, it went to 72 for 14.4 because Dr. Wheeldryer had to find a place for some of these band kids to go, and some of them chose to go the Spanish route versus PE or art or something like that. All right, and again, that school, we're looking at minimal reductions there because they're pretty tightly staffed as it is. There's not a lot of room there. And they could use some of the high school staff to lower class size, teach a section here, teach a section there. The high school is probably the one that's the most overstaffed of the 3 schools. I'd say McDowell and the high school are pretty close, but the high school probably edges them out. As you can see, we have 4 different sections of PE. So we have 3 different teachers that teach PE. The 4th one, class 4, is the girls' basketball class. So that's why it's only 11. That's intended to be that way. It's not an issue. But you can see in ELA, for example, having 4 teachers, which is great. I mean, you have a teacher teaches 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. But when you look at these numbers, there's definitely room to expand and have class sizes. What normal high schools have, and I'm just gonna be honest, normal high schools have classes between 30 and 35 students. That's pretty normal. I could tell you coming from SUSD, the only class that had a restriction in high school was science over there, and it was 32 was the max. I can tell you I never had any science classes at under 32. So that was a goal. It didn't mean it happened. Could have changed over time, but I can say I know my teachers over there were really concerned about being over 32. If you look at, again, social studies, you have 3 different teachers. You have one that has 48 kids a day. You see in science, you see in English, again, one teacher has 30 students a day total throughout the day, 7.5 per period. Part of that, though, is a little bit of the trimester. I gotta be honest about that. The trimester opens up additional sections. So yes, the classes should drop, but they should drop from maybe 30 to 27 or 32 to 28. These are numbers that are just meaning we're overstaffed. And I can tell you that the staffing at the high school is more now than it was when I was principal there. But the student count is half of what it once was, okay? And again, last year there was no appetite to cut certified, and that's okay, I respect that, like I said, I understand it, but that was off the table. So we had to be creative this year to get through our budget to make it work and still keep reserves, but we're not gonna be able to keep doing that, and you're gonna see that coming up here, okay? We also have possible solutions here at the high school, continue to use creative scheduling, and we could also use the ASU classes for dual enrollment to also lower class size. So for example, let's say a teacher teaches 2 grade levels now, and they're not typically done that. They teach 11th and 12th grade disciplines. Some of the kids may opt to take a dual enrollment through ASU, and that will reduce their total number in the class because they're taking that in a different section called FHU throughout the day. So that gives you a chance to reduce class size, okay? So let's go over financial background here. I checked with the county today, again, for the 7th time to make sure numbers are correct. So, and these are all estimates, so I want to be clear because some of this is dependent on how much we get in refunds. But we have an expected reserves into 25-26 of our M&O operations budget. So if you take our total M&O budget, we have 20% of that in reserves, okay? And according to the county, that is an excellent number to have. That's what they said, excellent. They said that's good. The reason I have it as estimated is because I'm only estimating with that 20% that I'm only going to get $100,000 in SPED reimbursement this year because I'll believe it when I see it. When the money shows up, we'll take a victory lap, we'll run around and we'll cash it. But I'm not sold that's going to show up. So it could be as high as $350 in reimbursement. I only have $100,000 that I'm counting on because I have pretty good understanding from the people I've spoke to at the Department of Ed that we'll at least get 100, if not more. So if it's 350, that'd be 250 more thousand on top of that number. Another one that is always in flux is Medicaid reimbursement. We typically get around 100,000 in that. So I'm budgeting on the side of the lowest number, and if we get more, that's great too. So that's your maintenance operation. So that's a good number, okay? That gets you a good set of reserve money. So if you decide like, hey, we want to keep a position or we want to do this, you have a little flexibility to do that. What I'm telling you is if you cut none of this, you will run out of money in time because that reserve will go fast. All right, capital, we have 2 years of capital and reserves, which is again excellent. Those are excellent numbers. So the total amount of capital I get in 1 year, I have 2 years of that expected now and expected into next year for next year as well. So that's a good number. Classroom site fund is how we pay for performance-based pay, which you just talked about. And some of that is embedded into salaries. So we have 1 year of reserve. It's about $1 million in reserve there for in case, for whatever reason, the 301 number keeps dropping. So this year it was $792 per student is what we got, $792 per student. If that number was to drop, say, to $692, That'd be $100 per student times our weighted count of 1,200. So you're looking at, you have to reduce that amount. Well, having around $1 million in there gives you a few years to adjust if that continues to drop, if there was a recession, or let's just say it went away completely. At least give us 1 to 1.5 years to figure out what to do, and we've tried to maintain that account at that level so we have some reserve money there as well, okay? And then you have the land sale, which projection based on the group we had in last year, that before we started the land sale in the election process, we had a group come out and discuss that with us. I just went straight off their slides. Their projection for both parcels is 8 to 10 million, okay? Now that was a year ago, so maybe it's gone up, maybe it's gone down. So all in all, when you factor in that we have no bond or override in place, which limits me tremendously on what I can do, I feel like our numbers are really good for next year and into the next couple of years if we make the adjustments now that are needed to do so, okay? If I had a bond or override in place, DAA, which is your assistance override, I would be able to actually take our capital allotment and move that over to reduce these cuts by about half. But since that's not in place, it's not an option to do that, okay? But with land sale, you could do that. So with land sale, you could, and I'll talk about that more, move the same amount. So our projected capital is around 600,000. You could move that over, but if you start doing that year after year after year, all of your land sale money is going to people and to salaries instead of fixing the things that we're trying to fix, like roofs and air conditioners and anything else that pops up along the way. So that's a decision you all have to make, is how do you want to spend that projected land sale. And remember, that's 18 to 24 months away before we're going to see any of that money. And then by then, you're going to have obviously some different possible issues to address at that time. So I just want you to get a full picture. Okay, any questions so far on that?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
I guess my question with this slide is, we save this money and reserve it in case the funding changes or in case we need it? Like, at what point would we use some of the reserves to replace some of these, like, again, the faulty equipment that we're spending a bunch of M&O money to, repair instead of
I would
replacing?
advise against using it because, again, you funding could change, right, in an instant. We're going to talk about that with the M&O override. You also could have a major issue that happens, like, for example, the air conditioning at, say, McDowell Mountain, one of the towers goes out, that's $500,000. So you have to have some reserve to be able to do that.
Well, I guess that's kind of what I'm asking, because when the air conditioning went out and we just repaired whatever was going on, we were told that we're gonna need to buy one of those new chillers, and you told us that was $500,000, $600,000. So at what point do we say, maybe this is what we dip into the reserves for and replace it so that we're not constantly calling out these people for repairs, and then we can build it back up because we're saving the money on the M&O side?
Well, you're not gonna save a lot. You're gonna, with the cuts we're proposing, we're going to hopefully have some carry forward into next year. You can build up over time by, again, if you want to move capital. So let's say the land sale goes through, okay, and we get $8 to $10 million. You could take the $600,000 you get from capital, not spend it on capital, and move it over to M&O to build up your M&O and have a larger reserve. That's what some districts do.
Because you could use the land sale money to cover capital expenses.
Then you'd use the land sale money to cover those capital expenses, and that would allow you to get to maybe 30, 40% of reserves. Now, are you getting to a high number where it's so high that you're not providing the kids what they need? That's a decision, again, we all have to make. When they say, 20% is an excellent number, that's where I want to be. And so like I told you, when it comes to capital, they all know it can never go below $1 million. It's going to be over that. We expect it to be at 1.3, 1.4 next year. But if it can't, like they know that. Everyone on that team knows that.
I guess then
because if I need to buy a $500,000 thing here and then a $250,000 thing there, I got to have that money for a rainy day.
I understand that's part of.
Yeah.
and I love that we have all these reserves. I guess my concern is that if we do go for an M&O override, we're asking for a loan from our public to cover expenses when we kind of have reserves to cover those things already that is also their money. So,
But if
again,
you run out of money, you've got a big problem, right? And that's what I'm trying to avoid here is.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
so we have 20% of our budget in reserves, which means we spent 80% of the budget for
No,
M&O
I'm saying
this
we
year.
have 20% of what we get, and we don't have 20% every year in reserves.
So
You
that's
know,
been accumulated slowly over time?
Yes,
Okay.
and so if you, so on a $10 million budget, we have $2 million a year we're not spending, that's not true. We use almost every penny, and like right now, our current, with every expenditure for the rest of the year, we're gonna finish the year at around 115,000 for carry forward into next year, and that's doing all the work we did to keep everybody and not have any certified cuts last year. That number could grow as high as 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 by the end of the year because our maintenance and transportation directors have been told, really don't buy it unless it's an absolute necessity, and they've been really good about that. So that could be a couple more 100,000 that's encumbered now that they don't spend. And then you also have these sped reimbursements. If those come in, we've already spent the sped money. I told you last time, I think $650 we spent on special ed this year. If I get $350 back, that's not a bad number. Spending $300,000 in a district of our size for special ed is a pretty good number. When it's double that, that's where it gets a little scary. So again, you can continue to build that up, but I think it's very responsible for us to have good reserves because anything could happen. And so I was, you always worry about what's too much, right? I don't think we're at that point.
Well, I definitely am not speaking against having reserves, but so we're looking at having 115,000 carry forward from this year.
If everything gets spent on everything that's encumbered and the worst case scenario happens,
So
you're going
that
to.
gets added to one of these
It will carry over into that 20% into next year, and then if you want to, like I said, you could start moving capital over in the future, more and more of that, and build that up to $3-4 million, if you wanted to, and have 40-50% of your budget capacity in reserves. But at that point, then you'd have to start saying, do we really want to have these larger class sizes when we could afford a couple more teachers to bring those down? So that's the balancing act that you have to do. Okay? So I just want to give you an overview so you have that. Yes?
I have just two questions. What did the county say is like they said 20% is good.
Excellent.
What's excellent?
I like that word excellent. I was really happy
Excellent.
when they said that.
What is not good? So in other words,
What's
if it was, or what's average, yeah, right? So did
I
they
would, well,
tell
I'd say
you-
a lot of districts are probably under 10%.
Okay.
Some of them may have a couple 100,000
Okay.
reserves. I mean, it depends on the size, obviously, the district.
Right.
I can tell you that, some of the districts that I look at are that are really fiscally on top of things and have been, I think, models of that are right around that same number. So,
Okay.
so again, I would say we have probably more capital on percentage than others, like having 2 years worth. But remember, we're small, so their 6 months might be more than our 2 years. But according to, like I said, Chris and I spoke with the county on multiple occasions, and they looked over this slide today for this, like seriously, the 7th time. They probably think I'm crazy, ask them over and over again. But I said, I need to make sure this is accurate, and they did say yes. They felt very confident that this was a good snapshot of where we're at. Okay, so again, not having additional funding, I feel pretty good about this, but we got to start thinking about next year and the following year, because as you're going to see here, student count's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
I mean, we can hope for the best, and I'm all for rah, whatever we want to do, but Chris and I have to think about worst case scenario so that we're still open. And if it comes in better, then awesome. We'll find cool things to do with it. Yeah.
Second question is, the carry forward is $115,000 low for our size school district for a carry forward?
I think, no, well, yeah, I think 3, like Tyler's always shared with me, he thinks the district our size should be somewhere between 3 and maybe 400. And it might be there after we get our sped reimbursements.
Okay.
But you gotta remember too, we did not cut a single certified last year.
Right.
So if we had.
Then
so-
that carry forward would be
Well, yeah,
larger.
and so I suggested last year, let's reduce a principal, I've been about 125,000
Right.
with benefits and everything. And maybe 6 or 7 teachers last year, we would only have to do, half of what we're doing this year. But because that didn't happen, now we're kind of back against the wall. Yes, could we float us another year of doing what we're doing now? Possibly, but man, you're getting now dangerously low, and I don't feel comfortable with that. So I want to make sure we're doing that.
I have a question
Yeah.
too. So with those reserves, we're at accident level, but is there a danger level at which the state would say, ooh, you're...
Well, you saw, came up on that Attorney General list that we were at high risk. A lot of
Yeah.
that's our enrollment. So I talked to Wickenburg superintendent in a meeting, and she was like, hey, we have all this reserve money, but we're on the list because we have this, our enrollment has dropped so much over time. We're on there for that, but also because we've had to clean up a lot of where accounts where money was, right?
Yeah.
And we've been sharing that with you over time. Craig has done for a year now, he's been doing this process. And so you're going to start seeing more and more and more those numbers shifting right in front of you on those reports as they come in, as we maneuver some things around, okay? But like I said, the county, and if you want them to come speak on behalf of us, you can, but they were very clear, they were here today, they've been coming weekly. And what I love about them, shout out to them, is they've been working with Chris every week, all day, they spend the whole day out here, making sure he's getting what he needs and learning everything, and then he has 2 people he can call, and we will be moving away from our true professionals contract as soon as this RFP pretty much is done. That'll be it. We won't be using them anymore. So Tyler will no longer be here because Chris will be ready along with the county support that he's getting from them. Okay?
We already had the breakup conversation.
Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. So he's got a lot of other things to do. I'm sure he'll be fine with that. So to give you an idea, as I present the plan of what we believe is the safe, good number to get to, where we have a little breathing room. So Chris and I are up at night wondering if we're going to make our budget through the year, and then also to give us room for some growth down the line, to give salary increases again, get back to where we can do the things we've been able to do in the past. We're going to have to make those cuts to take care of the people who will be here in the future and make sure that they're getting what they need. So I put together a budget team. We had budget team meetings. Some of you attended those. And it was made up of stakeholders from each of the learning community sites. It was parents, staff, certified and classified, and it was also students from my student advisory board. I'm a big student voice. I think it's important for them to have a take on things, share their thoughts, and I want to thank both of them for coming and putting in the time to do that. So what we did in those budget team meetings is we talked about this presentation. They helped me create it. We did survey data. So what could we live without? What are things you think we need to cut? And then based on that survey data, I put together a proposal for you to look at that they felt as much as possible thumbs up. We have a couple members here. Jenny was there. Who else? Anyone else? Okay. So, thank you, Jenny. All right. But no one wants to do any of this. I just want to be very clear. But again, reality is reality. So proposed reductions, this one's it's gonna sting a little bit. We propose a reduction of 1.5 million in our M&O budget. Okay, one of the reasons is we had a $10 million budget this year. It's going down to 9.2 next year because again, student count keeps dropping. So you're talking about a period of time of student count over and over and over again. And I can have Krista send you a copy of this, so if you'd like it. So to get to that number, and that number would give Chris in his role a little bit of breathing room of we're going to make our budget, we're going to have some money for those repairs and things that come up throughout the year that we need to deal with. It gives us a little bit of breathing room when you have to do what's called a 6-FHUSD contract. So Ms. Barsama, needs to teach a class because the schedule didn't work out. She does this a lot for us with math. And we have 7 kids that need calculus AB, and we're not going to deny them that. So that costs $10,000 roughly to do a section of that, like a 6-FHUSD. We'll have that flexibility to do some of those things and then have more opportunity for carry forward. So if you have more carry forward, we can then put that towards potential salary increases down the line. So to get to that number, I have 956, 963 certified. I'm going to break it down for you so you can see where those are at. 47 in classified, and the only reason that number is so low is they're already so thin. There's not a lot of options, and a lot of those classified, like paras, are paid out of special ed funding. It's not out of M&O, so it's a different kind of funding pot. And there's just not a lot left to cut in those. In fact, we have some positions where we've never been able to fill them, and we've just kind of made it work. This is a bold number, but I just think you have to have some administrative cuts. I don't think can all be certified. We did take some cuts last year, obviously, with assistant principal and executive director, but you could get to that with combining some roles, so I'll talk about that coming up. Transportation, we went real low on that because I can't guarantee what that's going to look like. And I'll go through that a little bit more here in a minute. Tuition increase at Little Falcons Preschool, that would be about $50 a month more. Athletic fee increase, $50, gets you $15,000. It's such a small number. And not every kid pays the fee because of free and reduced lunch, and they just can't. So, and we don't like to limit their participation, try to work with them, pay what they can, things like that. If you reduce the optional days, so right now we have 3 optional days in July. They were very lowly attended according to HR. Last year, about half, maybe less than half came. That would reduce $15,000. And then supplemental contracts would be things that are like 6-FHUSD. We had to do a lot of 6-FHUSD this year to fill band because that was an unexpected, but we also saved on band a little, there, so it was kind of an even one there. But there's always a need for 6-FHUSD, and we feel we could reduce those down by half if we're really good in our scheduling. And Mrs. Pinto has a lot of master scheduling experience, and I'm very confident she will have a very strong schedule that doesn't require a lot of 6-FHUSD, or where the scheduling team made an error and they come up and ask for forgiveness by, can I please have a 6-FHUSD? And we're not going to not let the kids have the class, so we have to do that. So we did factor in that Ms. Pinto may make a couple, she's not, but just in case she does, we got her covered for a few. And then those also include they're just kind of some random things that just add up, right? They're 2,000 here, 1,000 there, and they add up over time, okay? So to get to 956, you would need to cut 6 positions at McDowell Mountain. That would be K, 1, 2, 3, and 1 from 4 or 5 because those numbers are higher at 75 in each grade level. And you would have to reduce possibly an elective or specials position, not necessarily the class, but the position. At the middle school, it would be 2.5. The 0.5 is easy. That teacher did us a huge favor and taught in retirement this year, half-time, and has no plans to return, so that one's an easy one. And then the high school is a tough one. That one's a big one. That's 6 because, again, their class sizes are relatively very small. So that gets you to 14.5, and again, I know that's a big number, but that will get you to that number. I can say that and again, these are all estimates because there's a lot of moving pieces. I don't want to be told like you said this and it didn't happen, but I'm looking at, out of those 14.5, 5 of them being reduction in force, the rest being through attrition, okay? Classified, you could cut 1 half-time security guard at McDowell Mountain. He retired. So we appreciate all the work he did, but we don't need 1.5 there. I know Ms. Reichler would love that, but can't do it. So that would be, we still have a full-time security guard, just not 1.5. And We have one aide at Little Falcons Preschool that resigned recently that we would not replace, that would get you to that 47,442, okay? Transportation, the problem with transportation is in order for us to make our budget work this year with no reduction to certified, we had to put a lot of transportation into our impact aid money that we get. And impact aid, like everything, is going to drop again next year because student count is lower and lower and lower. So we don't know exactly what it's going to be. We have to guess a little bit. Krista runs all our grants. She's given me a good starting point number from impact aid that says this is a guarantee of what we're going to get. But it is about $400,000 lower than it's been in the past. Now, we also got more than we anticipated this year. So I don't know what changed from what they gave us as an estimate, what we got. But in order for transportation to really reduce down to what it needs to reduce down to, just by having less impact aid money available, we would need to be very moderate there and hope for the best is they can save us $100,000. I think that number is going to be hard to get. But again, I think Ray's probably one of the best in the district of being frugal and really watching our money. So I think he could probably get us there. That would include K-12 bus routes, which may not be super popular. But again, these are the things we can no longer continue to do. That would reduce our bus routes in half because right now we drive K-5 and then we go pick up 612 and most of the buses are not full and they could be reduced. There's definitely room for reduction. I checked with about 9 different people and wrote all their names down and documented all of them. If we cut transportation, will we lose budget funding, budget capacity? And the answer is no. I've checked that from everybody, including the Department of Ed. They finally had a conversation with them, and she also said over the phone, no, you will not lose any funding. If we didn't drive a single mile next year, we'd still get the same amount of transportation money we get every year. But we don't plan to do that, obviously. So we would be able to maintain our money. Administration, again, that's ambitious. I do want to caution that this district has run into problems when they have cut or had administration that didn't have maybe the vision that the rest of the people in the community had. And I will just say that we've seen, a school here in the recent history lose 75% of its staff in 1 year. So if you have massive changes to administration, that could have massive shifts to teacher retention. And that affects students when they don't have the same teachers and we're having subs in the classroom and things of that nature. So, you could combine some roles there to reduce. Do you need all those positions with the student count we have? I don't know. I will just caution that I can't support a reduction of the principalship at the high school and middle school because I tried to do that last year and it didn't happen. Again, your call. You guys get to decide things, but I can't do that because we tried that last year. It didn't work, and then we brought somebody into that position, so we'll go from there. Tuition increase, $50 per month is $21,500. That would help obviously cover some of the costs at Little Falcons Preschool, and then athletic fee increase $15,000, and then the rest we already talked about. So. With that, I'll take questions. It's a good stopping point. Yes?
It's somewhat a little difficult when you have like the certified positions. Each one of these things has a result, has an impact.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them you can tell if you're going to do bus routes, it's probably going to affect scheduling and time in school and departures and all that. But getting back to the positions, are you going to break it out by subject area and class size, or?
Yeah, I can tell you right now that McDowell Mountain I shared with you. So K1, 2, 3, 4, 4 or 5 combo. So they have 150 kids. You can't cut that far down. Your class size would be massive. So Val's been working on creative scheduling to be able to keep the class sizes at a pretty good number. We feel confident we can keep them at a good number. It'd just be a different style of teaching. It would be more team teaching. We're looking at like what we do, like for example, Maybe the kids in, like we see in 5th grade, they see a different teacher for different subject areas. That's a possibility. Combo classes is a possibility. So she's working on that, not like nonstop. She's been working on that in the backside. So she'll be able to, once we get the reductions down, she'll make this work. But the bottom line is this number is not going to change. So however we got to get there, our job is once we know what the board's going to approve for those reductions, our job is to make it work, right? And we're confident that we can make it work based on the conversation we've had with principals that they can make that work. At the high school, you got some tough decisions to make there. I'm just going to be honest. You have 4 English teachers right now, and you could, I believe, with 300 kids, you could have 2. You know, in math, you have 4. Math's a little harder. I think you could have 3. Science, you have 3 now. That's a little tougher to cut. But you know, science is not. You know, it's unfortunately not a course that's required every year. And some kids, you have to have 3 to graduate. But there are alternative pathways in science and social studies through online courses, ASU dual enrollment courses, things of that nature. Where we really have a staffing issue at the middle and high school is in PE. You got 5 teachers, and it's between the 2 campuses in PE, and that's a big number, right? So those are possible cuts. But again, I want to be able to say once you give us those numbers, like, hey, this is what we're doing. I want the principals to have the final say on what is going to work for their schools, their schedules, and things of that nature. So you're looking at the middle school, probably electives, and maybe 1 position of, actually it'd be all electives. I don't think there's any room really for any reductions in core classes at the middle school. And it could be a shift. I mean, it could be 7 at McDowell and 1.5 at the middle school. But this is the way we. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. All right. Can I retract that statement? We have had a lot of discussion, the 4 of us, I should say, with Chris and Kaylee in the room, and we believe the schools will function fine. The kids will still have the programming they've had. Same opportunities. Their class sizes will obviously be bigger. Some of the adults they've come to know may not be there, which is unfortunate. But we do believe that they will still have a very good experience with the reductions if we go that route. Now, you could come back and say that's too much and we'd like to reduce somewhere else. You could say reserve money, but I'm just going to be very, very upfront with you. You start using that reserve money, I can't get it back. It's going to, without a bond or override. And I don't have either. Land sale would be 2 years from now, but if you burn through your reserves in the next couple of years, you may not have any reserve money. So those are the tough decisions that are coming, okay? Any other questions on this breakdown?
No, I was going to say, I'm looking at the resignations, and there's 5 resignations from McDowell Mountain. Makes me feel better because technically there's 1 person maybe that you have to
Correct.
remove.
And it makes me feel good because I know they're all doing something different.
Right.
So they're not RIF notices there, and
Yeah.
and the reason like I said, the timing of this now is because we've been, in the last couple of months, proactively surveying the teachers. If you're not coming back, let us know, and we can move somebody into a position to keep their position here. It may be at a different site, a different subject, but hey, they still have a job.
Right, and that was going to be my next one, to make sure that they're certified enough to be able to move from one thing to another.
Yes, and we do have some flexibility. I mean, you depending on the subject area and things like that, you can do an emergency certification for a period of time to help someone transition into a new position. But I want to be very clear. This same discussion, I guarantee, is happening across the state. Everyone I've talked to, Cave Creek, Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Higley, Buckeye, every district, I talk to superintendents all the time. It's everywhere. And a lot of it, again, is it's the low amount of birth rates, and it's also the low amount of young families living in Fountain Hills. Our demographics have changed. This number I was told, a couple years back, I don't know if it's true, so take that with a grain of salt, but I was told that 20 years ago, our average I think it was Dana Sarr who said this, was like 42, and now it's like 65. So when you have this change in demographics here, and you don't have children coming in, you're going to run into these issues. And so if we had growth and we had even stagnant numbers, and I'm coming to you with this, and we got a problem, right? Like, that's a big problem. But this is all related to our growth over time. And I'm going to show you that here coming up in a minute.
And if we do the reduction in force, Katie, we're going to give them the option of coming back. Like, if we need to add somebody, they would be the first ones to be called, assuming.
And that happens more times than not. Like, a lot of times you do a reduction, and then after all the dust settles, everyone has a job again. So,
Question on the transportation.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but in my head, I thought that that was an area where we could maybe find some more reduction. And my child rides the bus, and I love the bus because I live on the wrong side of town from the school. But is that K through 12 bus routes, does that mean that all the same routes are running? It's just now, it's a K through 12, it's just one route, but we're keeping all the same routes. Is there an opportunity to maybe reduce a route or two?
Love-hate relationship with this mic, mostly hate. So we used impact aid to fund transportation this year. We're getting less impact aid.
Right.
So Ray's got it cut in half, basically, so we don't hurt M&O, and we haven't even really cut yet, right? And my job's a little different than Dr. J's. You know, these are my friends up here, so I'll tell you, none of this is easy. But, you know, I came up with 1.5. I had 2 other finance directors look at it. I had the county look at it, none of whom know each other, and they all agreed. So, and it's his job to get to that number. But he's going to have to cut back significantly. And the 100,000 is just like a little, I guess, cushion, if you will, out of M&O if we need it. But it's not really representative of what he's got to cut. And like Dr. J said, you know, with no override in place and declining enrollment, you know, I just have to work on what I know we have now. So we know we're getting $750 in impact aid. We might get more, but like anything else, like we did with the SPED reimbursements, we don't budget on hope, right? Sales, hope isn't a strategy. So he's going to have to cut significantly more, but that comes from the impact aid.
Gotcha.
So to answer your question, yes, it ended up being kind of an additional just kind of hit to us. Like when we saw we just saw the number. It just came in not long ago. So one of those kind of took your breath away moments. Like, okay, it dropped significantly. Now we are reviewing that data because it is by student, and so we're going through and verifying it's correct and doing everything we can to double check it. But yeah, it just ended up being that it was less money. And I just, to be honest, Ray does a fantastic job. Ray's department, you never hear from Ray's department. It runs smooth. He's a fantastic mechanic. He's a fantastic leader. He does everything you ask him to do. But we drive kids everywhere. Like, it's great. When we had the money, it was great. We drive to EVIT like 5 times, I think, a day. We drive them to different campuses and small vans, and we drive students. He'll pick a kid up on, you know, a special route if they need him to. He's just very generous. But you just, when you have these kind of reductions, you can't keep doing what we've always done. And so we did have a good idea of using senior internships to help monitor bus elementary and kind of sit between elementary and middle and high school and give them an actual job. And I believe
board member volunteers.
Yeah, board member volunteers. Yeah. So but to actually report back to, keep a log of any behaviors, any issues, make sure that someone else has, on top of the cameras in there and the other adult driving the vehicle and things like that. So I think we can get it done. We have really good kids here. I mean, we maybe I'm a little biased, but I'm going to say we don't have a ton of major behavior issues in this district. Our kids are respectful, and when our principals set strong guidelines, which they do, the kids follow that. So I don't see, as a parent myself, and I had elementary kids, I would be understanding of that, but I know everyone may not be. But these are just the realities of where we're at.
I have a question.
Yeah.
At what meeting do we have to approve this plan? The next meeting or the?
Yeah, so March 5th, we would need to have something in place of at least reduction of, like, if we decide this is what we want to do, or you want to send back feedback. The reason is that Kaylee has a short window to get contracts out, and to be respectful to teachers who may end up being riffed, they need to be able to go out and look for new jobs. Now, the good news is that no school district can send out their contracts before March 15th. And actually, that's a weekend, I believe, so it's March 17th is the earliest. So Kaylee would have, from the time this is approved to that March 17th time period to work on contracts, get those also approved, right, by the board on.
Those were kind of slated for the March 9th.
Yeah, so we would be a couple days behind other districts, but I don't think anyone 3 days is going to make a difference.
Can I officially ask for an additional meeting for us to discuss both the agenda, and if the board is not against it, I'd actually like to make a motion that we table the last 3 discussion topics, since I think that they are kind of highly important, and we're already at 8:40 p.m. So I kind of feel like, I know one of the moms that came specifically for the strategies to boost enrollment, and so I think if we could.
I think for another meeting, we have to do that a little later in the agenda. We have to kind of follow the agenda
If I
for
move
that.
to table these 3 discussion items for an additional meeting? 'Cause
Well,
to
right
me,
now, we're only on budget reductions,
I
though.
understand,
Yeah,
but
so we have to
it's
kind of stick to that
the-
topic.
I understand, but on the agenda, it also says 6 to 8 p.m. So I'm saying now that we're at 8:40 p.m.
It does not say 6 to 8.
Oh, online it
just
does,
says-
okay.
It just says 6 p.m.
Yeah,
Okay.
we go till we're done.
I don't give a window.
Okay, well, I won't stop the discussion from happening, but I am going to ask for another meeting with those 3 things on as the discussion topic.
Well, that'll be future action in a couple minutes, hopefully.
Yeah, and you guys have a lot, that's the beauty. You do have time, like you kind of, you can have a special meeting. We have to check with Dave if certain things you want to do, would qualify for executive session.
Yeah.
You have some options.
And we can talk
so-
about having
Well, I
an extra
technically
meeting on
made a
this topic.
motion to move, to table these 3 discussion topics until. for
Which
another
3?
meeting.
Well,
The budget reductions, the strategies to boost enrollment, and the maintenance and operations
But we're
override.
already-
well,
talking
we're
about
already
budget.
in budget reduction, so we
I
can't table it. And
Actually,
we're not
we
making
can.
any
We've done it
decision now.
before. I understand, but I'm saying the public discussion is not so public anymore. And, I mean, I have pages of my questions, so if we want to sit here until 10:30 at night, we can. I'm asking for an additional meeting, and I'm asking
Well,
for
that'll
us
be
to
later.
table those discussions.
Yeah, we'll go over an additional meeting later.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're missing the point that I made a motion for us to table these 3 topics.
But again, we're on
in
budget
addition-
reductions now. We can't make a motion relating to other things until we're done with budget reductions. Are we done with budget
We've-
reductions? Does anyone else have comment about, or question about budget reductions?
I have a whole bunch of questions, but that's why I'm asking that we schedule an additional meeting for a fuller discussion, since the discussion on
But
this
again,
didn't
that's a
start
topic,
happening.
we can't, my understanding is
So I would
that's a
finish
future
this
action item.
discussion item now. If there's no more further questions at this time, you can ask for additional.
Well, and that's what I was saying,
Yeah,
if the
and
board
we'll-
doesn't have a problem, I'd like to
So
just
he.
schedule an additional meeting.
Yes, he will do that. So let's
Yeah,
finish
we
this
do that a little
discussion.
later in the meeting,
Yeah.
okay.
I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Kaylee deserves a spring break. So, we maybe factor that in. Like,
What dates are spring break?
Spring break is second week of March.
So it's right
Okay.
at that
I
time.
could have a little time off.
Well, I think
Got
that's
it.
when our meeting is scheduled.
Meeting
March
is
5th.
the week after that.
We have
So-
March 5th is the next one.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to table the strategies to boost enrollment and the maintenance and overrides operations?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's a motion. Does anyone want to second that? There's no second, so the motion fails. So Strategies to boost enrollment and.
Well, we're
and
not,
now-
I'm not discussing budget, I'm not done discussing budget reductions if we're not tabling it.
Well, with the understanding that we'll have another meeting, we'll
Will
vote
we
later
have
on
another
another
meeting?
meeting.
Just for this.
Well, we can't officially decide that, but
I'm asking for.
unofficially, I think we should have another meeting. if that's-
Absolutely, well,
Well, it's up
I
to
just
the
need to
board.
know if I need to ask all my questions now, or if we're gonna have another meeting for the budget discussion.
It sounds
Well,
like
that's
we're
up to
gonna
the
have
board to
another
decide
meeting.
whether we want to have another meeting.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we'll bring it up in a couple minutes, hopefully. Okay?
Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we do
Strategy.
strategies to
Oh.
boost enrollment, or
Okay. Yeah.
no? That's the last two things.
Yeah, if you want, I can stay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks. So strategies to boost enrollment?
I believe, Ms. Reed, that would be, do you want to discuss that?
I'm sure.
Okay.
I will say I'm a little disappointed that we don't have some kind of presentation or plan on strategies to boost enrollment, because it goes hand in hand with the budget cuts.
Okay, I apologize. Chris and I were both under the impression that you wanted to lead that conversation, not us. So-
Not that I wanted to lead it, I wanted it to happen, because
Okay.
even when you started your budget reductions discussion, one of the first things you said was due to low enrollment. So if we are dealing with these issues due to low enrollment, I would think that one of the first priorities would be how we boost enrollment, or, how do we
Yeah,
find
and with
that?
all due respect, for the last 3 years, I've nonstop thought about it, nonstop worked on it. I've thrown everything I can at that problem, and I'm telling you what I've come back with. And again, what I've seen is that you just don't have enough kindergarten children that live in our town, even if you got all of them, okay? You're not gonna have 115 kindergartners, in my opinion, coming in ever.
Well, I mean, we could change that. We mentioned that back in let me get the numbers that you presented. Back in 2022, you had 1,308 students, and now in 2025, we only have 1,103. There are over 3,000 school-aged kids in this town. So I think that we have access to a lot more than the 1103 that we're pulling, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
There
the
is-
data, just so you know, the data I received from like an expert in the field that does that is that number is around, school-age children is around 17 to 1,800 in Fountain Hills. So I can get you a copy of that if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would.
Krista, if you could do that.
Okay, well, and then the other, just going over because I tie it to budget reductions. We mentioned the 160 kids on ESAs. I would be really interested to find out how many of those students were homeschooled prior to the ESA funding, because I know of a couple families that were homeschooling before that was an option, and then took that as an option because they were already homeschooling, and it was just a way to help with their expenses. I currently homeschool and don't take ESAs because I wouldn't spend that money anywhere but here. Unfortunately, we just don't accept ESA funds here for anything.
I can share just some traditional history, being here for a long time. I worked really hard as principal with the homeschool network. In fact, Vicki Dirksen was one of the contacts. She's actually one of my neighbors, and we had a really good working relationship over those years, along with several others. I'm going to forget some names. It's been a while. But one of the things Dr. Sweeney and I both tried to do in that time to raise enrollment, we did this in 2017, 18, things of that nature. We offered kids to take one class with us. We went out and spoke to the groups and said, take Spanish 4 with us, take AP Calculus, take courses maybe someone in the homeschool network doesn't feel comfortable teaching. It yielded us, I'm just being honest, maybe 2 kids. Like, it just was not popular to those families. A lot of, and again, I can't speak, I'm not a homeschool parent, my kids are in the district here, but I can say that a lot of people, when they make a choice for their child's education, there's a lot of reasons behind that. And we have, we've always had a strong presence of homeschool students in this town. And I would say the number, in my opinion, based on the numbers I was shared with years ago, is probably less now than it was in the past. But again, there's really no unofficial numbers, but I was told back when I was president, there was about 300 kids in town homeschooled. Right now, the latest numbers I saw that, was around 160 to 200, but again.
But that might be not counting
I got
ESA
you.
students as homeschool, like we chose not to when we decided.
Yeah, so we know 160 ESA students in Fountain Hills. I have that in that report that the expert gave us, you'll see that. Parents who don't maybe identify anything to us, or we just don't know, that number, I can't tell you. But I can tell you that we've always said about 40% of students, 40% of students choose other opportunities for education because of the school choice and the proximity to other schools that are around us. And yeah.
You mentioned the competition of other schools, but honestly, there shouldn't really be a competition. And I love when you told people that the opportunity was here and that we wanted to focus on things like that. And so I really think, again, our focus should be making ourselves the school of choice, especially for people in Fountain Hills. Because if they're going out of town for schooling, that's just...
Let me ask you this. So I shared this with the town council last night. My daughter's going to graduate from Fountain Hills High School with her first year of college done. She's going to have a nursing certificate. She's going to go to NAU on the Lumberjack Scholarship, which is free tuition. She's going to get up there, and within probably 4.5 years, she's going to come back home with a nurse practitioner certificate and be a professional working in the healthcare field. Most other students, that's going to be really hard to do in that time period. We're not seeing a lot of students coming back to take advantage of that because, again, a lot of times once you leave a school, you have friends and sports and activities. It's hard to bring them back, and I think a lot of people don't realize that reality is hard. And a lot of damage has been done for decades with that. And I explained that to a lot of people, is that the way the town was founded, the actual way it was founded has set us up on a path of students never came here from the beginning.
Well, I don't think Fountain Hills was ever meant to be a place that pulled necessarily young people to it. It definitely is set up a little bit more like a retirement, a kosher, place where people tend to retire.
But it wasn't in the 90s.
Of course not. But 5 years ago, the median age was exactly what it is now, which
Sure,
is 60.
it's definitely shifted. And what it is like I had my 20-year kids back for their state championship. All their parents came. It was awesome. I hadn't seen these parents forever. Every one of them I asked, you live in the same house? Yes, yes, yes. I said, y'all gotta move. And they're like, we're not moving. It's great here. So that's another problem. And that happens in a lot of really nice communities is people just don't move because they're invested, their houses have grown substantially over the last 20, 30 years. And so you don't have a lot of options for young people to move in. And so it's been, like I said, I have in my office a newspaper article from 20 years ago that says with 900 kids not attending the Fountain Hills School District. That was back when we had about 2,500 students in the district. It was 900 not coming. That was before Basis. That was before Desert Mountain. That was before a lot, Notre Dame Prep. Those schools didn't exist. So it's been almost who we've been forever. We started with a K8, then it morphed into, we had 2 schools, and then there was a need for a high school in 92. But I will tell you, if this was 1992 and we had 300 kids in our school district, I don't think they would have built a high school. It got to 1,000 students there 20 years ago, and that all kind of started with us being on Oprah Winfrey's show, and that really skyrocketed Fountain Hills. But it skyrocketed, hit its pinnacle, and it's never recovered, and that's the reality of where we're at. So again, you just don't have enough students to maintain these things, and I'm willing to try whatever it takes.
Yeah, I think back then when the schools were nice and bustling, it was the attitude towards public education was very different. We saw a shift during COVID.
Agreed.
Where there was distrust again towards public education. And as I've said before, it didn't serve anybody. We want public education to succeed. So I think we're in actually a really unique and honestly beneficial spot to be so small and honestly not somewhere where we're going to pull a bunch of students. We're kind of tucked away to the side in a small town. So I think our real focus needs to be just on becoming the school of choice for Fountain Hills and all of the students that are here. And so we have to ask ourselves how we can do that. And by honing in on our small district and the potential that we have with that and the fact that you can come and sit in on your kid's classroom, you can get to know every single administrator.
We agree on all that.
Yeah,
but it's not moving kids, and that's the problem. And so, again, we've tried, I mean, if you look at the list of things we've done in 2.5 years, in a large district, that would take probably a decade because of how long it takes to get 5 high schools or 4 middle schools or 12 elementary schools to all get on board to do that. We've been able to move really fast here to try to get in front of this. But there's been some really, in my opinion, some really big missteps along the way. And one of them was for a long time, remember, COVID shifted. I'm with you on that, 100%. But we had declining enrollment before COVID when I was principal here. It was every year. It was worse and worse and worse, same thing.
Well, people bought into the belief that the academics were more challenging in Scottsdale, or that
But I beat their scores. We had better scores than them when in 2018 and 19.
I think people just weren't aware. And so we definitely have a little bit of a challenge with marketing, which I think that there's a lot of possibilities there. I'll just kind of go over a few of the things that I had put together.
Okay.
The way I approached it was I thought of the reasons that I've heard from people for leaving. A lot of it has to do with discipline issues or behaviors, and that includes some of the families whose kids were constantly disciplined. So they wanted reinforcement from the school, like strict reinforcement, so that they weren't just getting called home all the time. One was the music program, opportunities for Spanish or other languages.
Just to point out, I agree with you on the music, 100%. We brought in an 11-time state champion to run our band program, and it was going great. Okay, I can't help what happens in that situation, and we did have a really good thing going with him. Absolutely. We also, before that, had one of the best band directors with Lynn Truby, and she left during that leadership shift. So we weren't able to maintain. Okay, you also have at the elementary, there's just no one going into elementary music. She's been calling colleges the last 3 years. They're not graduating anybody to go into to that. We have the best music opportunity in the world. One location, don't have to travel. Giant classroom, offices with practice facilities. Basically a clean sheet to basically do almost anything you want with that. Spanish, we brought it to the middle school. We have 49 kids take it.
Yeah, when I had talked to, I can't remember exactly who, I think I mentioned it with both Kaylee and you and maybe Kevin, but when I had talked about the music position before, because I had talked to some people that I know that are involved in music, they weren't interested in full-time, and I'm talking about elementary.
Sure.
They just weren't interested in full-time. Have we given any thought to 2 days a week music?
Yeah, he's sitting right there. This guy's done everything he can to keep that music program going. Bernie, literally, this year is the reason that the kids made it through the year with the music at the middle and high school. Like he should be our Falcon of the Month one month, just for that alone. He literally gave up time every single day, constantly involved in that because he has a love of this. And that's great, but you can't schedule him as a teacher in there, even though he was there a lot. They probably should have got a salary, but we can't do that. So, but I'm going to tell you, coming from working in other districts, every district has discipline. Every district. If they say they don't, not true. Okay. I can tell you, our discipline is, we may have some disruptions in class where we could work with our staff on how to maybe handle those a little better, maybe give a little more support. But we don't have these real major discipline issues in our schools. Like, they're very low. And I'm very proud of that. It's a very peaceful, happy place. So we do have certainly areas. We've had times where a classroom, like I spent a lot of time last year at the elementary school with our 5th graders. But our 6th graders are rocking this year. I haven't heard, all I see is great things. They just, that little change of scenery.
I will add to that yes, I have confirmation from my son's teachers that our 6th graders are doing great. They were really struggling in 5th grade.
Yeah, and I spent, almost a quarter of the year working with them to try to give them that support. So yeah, everyone has issues. What I'm telling you is that you just, looking at it over and over and over again. We've had great success academically, letter grades, A+, highest test scores in some years almost in the state, low class size, peaceful environment, community, like people like Bernie and Craig and the Fountain Hills Coalition that come in and work with our kids. There's all these amazing things, but still and I talked to the town council about this last night, because Mayor Friedel asked me, what can I do to support you? And I said, help me with the perception. Because again, I put it out there. I'm constantly touting our school district. But I still have parents that think if you go somewhere else, you're gonna get a better high school education than graduating with a year of college done. I thought that would for sure solve the problem, and it's just not. So what I've leaned into is this. The kids who stay, the kids who are here, I'm so proud of them. I tell them all the time, like, you guys are here, you chose to stay, and I'm gonna do everything I can to give you everything I can possibly give you for being in our schools. So whether that's acceleration, and we saw a student today, brought almost, I know brought tears to our eyes that, this kid is in the Innovate 21 program that we all created to try to boost enrollment, and here she is getting an award, and her parents are proud as can be. So we've done a lot of that stuff. I just don't think there's one thing that's gonna fix
I definitely don't
it.
think that there's one thing, but that's why I think there has to be a solid plan.
So what are some suggestions that we're not doing that we
I just
should?
want to make one statement. I feel like everything you've done the past few years has been incredible, because I know brochures, everything was sent out to all the neighboring schools.
Yeah.
Arizona has open enrollment, okay? We want things to change, then we need to petition the legislature to get rid of that. I grew up in states where you don't go to another school district unless you're gonna pay tuition, and that's only if they have empty classrooms and empty areas for you to go. We're in a place where people can choose. And Madison, you care about the school district. Explain to us why your children aren't in here then.
I can absolutely explain why. As a parent, when I came to both the school administration at the time and then to the board, I was told our hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. That is absurd to me when it's our money and our children that carries this district. Without the children here, there's no money. Without the taxpayers, there's no money. So we're a public entity that is here to serve students and their families, nothing else. And so when I was, and my daughter got sent home 3 times for 10 days each within a month, or for within 2 months, I could give her more stability and attention and education than that was providing her at that time. And again, that was one of the decisions that the board told me, our hands are tied, we can't do anything, which was not true. That's why I do care so much, that's why I'm here, because I think that there's ways to change what's happening with the school, with the education system. It's been completely hijacked by the government, where now we don't have the ability to have a say, and parents are treated not as partners
I would say
in
we stay on the agenda, but I would just
I think
say,
we're getting off track here, so
and
I get back to.
And I would just say that, but that stuff, that's not us here. We love
But
having
that's
our
what I'm
parents,
saying
we
is-
want parents in the classrooms.
And we need to change that
We try.
perception that's around.
We try, but I'm just gonna tell you that there's just, the level of engagement has shifted a lot since COVID too. I mean, we just don't have a lot of things have shifted, okay? The numbers of people who volunteer, the number of members in organizations that volunteer are down. It's a societal thing that we're all kind of affects this. But what I'm saying is that we're talking about how to increase the enrollment. My team, we spend so much time talking about this. I can't tell you how many times I come in and go, hey, I got an idea, and they all kind of like run, because I'm always thinking about it. But nothing is going to shift until you have more children at the age of kinder, first, and second moving into this town or living here. And when, like I said, most of the houses that realtors talked about were $2, $3, $4 million homes. Now, maybe that was just a bad day. I've looked on our, locally, and 650, 700, you might be able to get a house. But think about a young family, 700,000, minimum 3% down if they're a first-time home buyer, and then it's 6% interest rate. How can they afford that, right? It's really hard.
But
So
there are plenty of families, young families, that don't own homes.
Sure.
They live in townhomes or in condominiums.
They could as well there too, but there's just, the numbers are just consistently going down in those younger families.
Well, and I think part of, the conversation with the town is, I mean, what we struggle with is we have a lot of snowbirds here. And the snowbirds purchase townhomes and condos and smaller, right? So they aren't purchasing the big homes here. So then, you know, those smaller housing possibilities for families are now taken.
But you could, 20 years ago when we were booming, and we talked about having 1,000 kids at the high school and those things, you could get an entry-level home in Fountain Hills for the same price you would get in, say, Phoenix or North Phoenix or, you know, Gilbert, Mesa, a place like that. And now that's really shifted because, you know, I did that back then.
Yeah, right.
So it's
Well, I
shifted.
guess all of that aside, the discussion, especially given my situation with my children, could be how do we get the kids in Fountain Hills back? And I will give you my list of things
Okay.
that would
Please
sway
do.
me and that I think would sway some of these parents that have shared with me.
Okay.
And I've talked to you about the clubs before, and I've
Yeah.
requested it be on the agenda for the club policies. But we can call them enrichment activities, because I guess that's what they are at the elementary school. But, you know, my approach to this was, what's our stewardship? It's education, providing a safe environment to learn, and management of public funds, probably, are the main three. Almost all of those could be helped through the enrichment activities or clubs, whatever you want to call them. And if you think about what do the people want, or what do our clients want, which would be students and their families, I think one big one is sports, which I think we do really well there. And I think that the only thing that we really would need to do there is promote what we have. And I put through town and community. Courtney, who spoke, had talked to me about why we don't see those game schedules out in public.
But where, I mean, they're on our website, they're on our Instagram account. I don't know where else we would put them.
Well, again, you could argue that that could be board member stuff that we bring into
Sure,
community.
we just
or
have,
it could
the
be-
town's gonna start doing that. I
Yeah.
talked to their new PIO about, you know, he's gonna start following Evelyn and posting that stuff out. Sure.
Okay, yeah, because I just think having it somewhere public it would be beneficial. And I know that there's plenty of businesses, like Senior Taco is super, you know, a partnership with our district before. And so I think that businesses like that would display the schedule and things like that. I liked her mention of the bumper stickers, proud parents, things like that. We just get the news out there and get the, you know, the schedule out there. Did we put out any information about Sam Barnard with his basketball, like with that, you know, being the basketball star? And well, I mean, like, I know what we did tonight, but is that, you know, can we put that on the marquee, or can we put the information about Ava out there where she's the first Fountain Hills female wrestler?
It was for sure in the Falcon Focus, but
Okay.
I also believe it was ran in the newspaper.
And I told the town council about, you know, about Ava last night. So, yeah.
Okay, and then overall, like local promotion of events and school spirit boosters. I had actually talked to Mayor Friedel when he was running because I loved that he was kind of putting a focus on the great things about Fountain Hills. And so I'd asked him if he thought that the town would be interested in doing something in partnership to celebrate our district. You know, we have an IGA for them using our property. Can they donate the park for a field day that's all about our district, where all of the sports coaches have the ability to
sure,
be there,
I would start
represent
with-
the board and the staff and.
Give us the homecoming at no cost. Like, we have to pay
Oh,
for
yeah,
that.
see, absolutely. And things like-
Graduation coming up, we
Graduation.
have to pay to close down the street. So those would be some great things to promote, like, hey, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
I asked 2 years ago to do, to put a poster, like a little sign at the splash park, and I was told no. They
Our
wouldn't.
town
Yep.
tells us no.
They said, no,
That's
they
really
can't.
interesting because we have the IGA that allows them to use our
I
buildings.
brought that up. I brought that
So-
up, and they said no, so we had to go down, we did our popsicle party with the PTO, and I sat down there, I didn't have an arrow or anything, but I sat down there with them, I had a screen I brought that displayed
Yeah, you had a
everything.
TV screen.
I
I was
did-
there with you.
Yeah, you,
Yeah.
see, so you
Well-
remember, and I did that, and we did Tara Lamar worked with the town, and again, I love our town, so I don't want it to sound bad, but you're saying,
No, I
I'm just
think
telling you,
that-
we tried, so with
Yeah.
the Avenue of the Fountains, we tried to put athletes up on the whole avenue, all the seniors, or all the graduates, and the answer was no. We could not do that. So,
Yeah, I think that maybe we can, and I mean, I know that you know Mayor Friedel. He said he was a fan of this idea when I talked to him. I mean, it was when he was campaigning.
That's
so,
great.
But in the end, we can put some pressure on those relationships and say, we are the #1 employer in this town. We need help.
But
We
I
need
think it's a
support.
deeper issue. So since I've lived here a long time, I'm going to tell you, it's not just in schools though. I see the same thing when it comes to shopping and restaurants and the faith communities. There's always people who leave to go to Scottsdale or somewhere else for those things. And that kind of sense of town pride, like I'll tell you, my kids grow up in Fountain Hills, they bleed blue, okay? One day, there was that sign of Adaro Canyon. My kid asked, why does that say Scottsdale? This is Fountain Hills.
Yeah.
And I
It's
said,
advertises Scottsdale.
well, but
It
I
is,
just said.
because it's a draw.
And I
Yeah.
said, let it go.
Yep.
I don't know. But that was, that's a high school kid driving by going, what is that? I think, and Betsy and I have talked about this, and Betsy she grew up here. Like, she loves this town more than anybody, right? And we've talked about that. We've talked about, she bought a bunch of Falcon shirts and is encouraging the local business to wear them on Fridays. It'd be great to walk into the bank and see every bank teller wearing a Fountain Hills shirt. And when you get that kind of pride, and you see that in a lot of Midwestern small towns and in small towns in different states where you drive into the town and all the state championships are up there. We tried doing that. We kind of, I think in the end, felt like, was that the best money to spend, and we put it aside, but we had some drawings set up for that and looked at that. But again, it's gonna have to take everybody in the town to say, we want this district and this school and this town to be successful.
But I think that has to kind of start with us, because like we talked about, the demographic here isn't focused on school. So without them looking at us, the only time they look at us is when we ask for money. So that's hard on some of the people that, like we've talked about, don't use our services. So if we were constantly out there being like, did you know that this happens at our school? Did you know that kids graduate with their first
I do
semester
that.
of
I
college?
just want you to know,
Did
like, I'm a member of Kiwanis and Rotary and the Chamber, and I speak publicly. I spoke to realtors, I spoke to the leadership teams. I'm constantly doing speaking engagements where I'm telling the people, this town council last night, I don't even use a presentation anymore. I just use our website, so people can go back and look at it without having to ask for the
I guess,
website.
what is
or
the call to action when you speak? Like, are we asking them to do something? Because I don't want all the weight to be on you to go
No,
out.
I'm asking them
and,
to
wave the flag.
look at us and be proud of the work that these people and our students have done, and say, wow, there's a lot of cool stuff here. That's what I'm hoping for. But again, no matter what we do, I just feel like you still run into the biggest problem is the number of students.
And there will be people that we never get back, and I do appreciate your commitment to being seen in the community and to being involved in the community. I think that that's huge, and the fact that you are in the community yourself is huge. That gave me so much hope when you were first announced as the upcoming superintendent.
And we've got some kids back, and that's great, and we're going to continue to work at that. But what started our conversation tonight is the reality of our situation is not going to shift in the next 6 months. We're not going to.
I'll just go with my last thing, which I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this one, but clubs and extracurriculars, I think, is one of the last things that would absolutely draw families back.
At what grade levels?
All of them. Okay. I love that the coalition just started the See Something, Say Something Club, and they're doing it at all levels. So at the high school, it's more focused on actual avoiding of drugs, and then all the way down to the elementary school, I can't remember what they called it there. It was something like Be Aware or something, and it's just more of, we need to be healthy and take care of our bodies. So there's definitely ways to scale it to whatever level it needs, but I'm just going to read through the list of clubs that I had found community members that were willing to help partner with teachers so that there wasn't an additional expectation on the teachers, but we could offer these opportunities to our students. And I think that it also kind of brought an opportunity for community members or parents to build relationships with our staff and students. So journalism was one that was, Brett Cruikshank was willing to run that, and I know they sold Fountain Hills Times, but he might still have some ability to do that.
He's alumni.
Okay, art, the Fountain Hills Art League was willing to run an art club and at any of the levels. Garden, Scott Wrightington, our food service director, was willing to.
I do have a garden one I can update you on. So
Okay.
the Four Peaks Rotary they're going to be taking kind of over the gardens at both McDowell and the high school as part of their service project, and they're going to donate, I don't want to say how much because I don't know if I have the number right and I want to put them in a bad spot, but they're going to donate a considerable amount of money, and they're going to be working with certain teachers at each site to get that off the ground. So that's new. The Little Falcons cheerleaders are new. That's something that I pushed really hard with our elementary staff, and they performed the first time 2 weeks ago at a basketball game, and it was great to see them do that. So yes, I will just tell you at the high school, the clubs are not as desired anymore, and I have an advisory board, and I talked to them about this. One of the reasons is that a lot of them are in sports, and it's hard to juggle. And the second reason is a lot of them are, they're not there at lunch, so that's another issue. And then third, they're just not interested as much in getting involved in things. We just had, Barry and I had a long talk with them about the hoop coming dance. We had like 40 kids come, and we pushed it. We were out there. There was tons of text messages because I got them all. My daughter went. She came home like a half hour later. It was just no one really wanted. And I asked the advisory board, and they said, it's just, things that happen during school we'd be more interested in, but outside of school, they're not feeling that. And
Did they ever survey the other students to find out what they want, the students?
We have not done a full-on survey to the whole school, but they represent, there's like 12, 14, they're different grade levels. We've seen a shift since COVID as well with students with lack of, interest in getting outside and doing something. That's why we push play so hard at the elementary schools, trying to get these kids back so that, when as they're growing up, they're used to doing some of those things that we all did growing up that help. So, yeah.
It would be interesting to
Okay.
see what the high schoolers do want as far as maybe extracurriculars. But, and there was an additional community member who knew of some programs available to pay for school container gardens and ones that could produce enough produce to actually fuel the food service part of it, which I thought was really neat.
Those are all great.
Yeah, and that was part of Scott Wrightington's idea with the garden club, was to be able to use some of the produce to make little extras or something that the kids
And
can
he'll be
have
able
for
to
lunch.
partner with, Julie Ewald is the one picking that up for
Okay.
the Four Peaks
I'll
Rotary.
have to mention that.
Yep.
And then Spanish, we had a dad who was willing to run Spanish club, and Lillian had even offered to be involved with that, which again, there's those families that leave due to not having Spanish opportunities. Maybe we can't have a full class, but if we had Spanish club, it's enough that those kids are getting that exposure and using their brain in different ways that I think that's really good. Academy 753 was willing to do a self-defense and awareness club at the younger levels and a karate martial arts club for the older kids, which is discipline focused, and I think that could be extremely beneficial for all ages. There was a Debbie Elder was willing to do a culinary arts club, and she actually got sucked up by the Inspiration Academy, and she's doing a culinary arts program there. And then Courtney Wilson, who was just here and spoke, she said, why don't we have a culinary arts club? She went to the Cordon Bleu.
So send those people to Ms. Reichler and let them meet with her and see what interest is. I just have been meeting with a local skateboard manufacturer about a club that he wants to do, but again, I've been very cautious with him, as I don't know if you're going to get the numbers you're looking for. So I've offered him to come in and meet with the staff meet with students, see how many are interested. If he gets 4, I don't know if that's going to be enough to do some kind of, it wouldn't be a club, but it'd be some kind of, maybe he rents the facility and, has a little thing going on. If he has 25, then he might be in business. But these are, like I said, the best way to find out if there's any interest is have them see Ms. Reichler and meet with her and go from there.
Well, I had come up with this before, but we had a discussion because we weren't sure if the club policies supported us moving forward, so that's.
Well, you gotta remember, a club requires staff member, and then I gotta pay them.
But the way it's set up with the club policies is that fee for the club is meant to cover that stipend.
It's not gonna cover the stipend.
It could, and and a couple of these companies were willing to even support and promote and sponsor, because in the end, like for example, Academy 753, their demographic is student age kids. So for them to go into schools and offer clubs, you know there's gonna be a percentage of those kids that go home and are like, Mom and Dad, I wanna take karate from Coach so-and-so.
Sure.
So there's a benefit to, again, everybody that's involved from doing this, including the teacher, who my hope with this was not adding additional responsibilities, maybe just getting the room ready for the
So
hour.
why don't we start with this? Why don't we start with Miss Reichler, Miss Pinto, and Dr. Wheeldryer putting out to their staff, would you be interested in partnering with a local community member and running a club? And let's see what kind of interest we have from staff first, okay? And then from there, she can connect those people and see what happens. But a lot of our fees for clubs are really small, like somewhere $25, $50. So to pay a stipend, you know, at $25, you need 100 kids.
For the running club, I mean, I think I paid $50 for my kids to be part of the running club at the elementary, and they limited it to 30, and I believe that covered the stipend.
It could, if she's on the lower tier. There's different tiers of stipends.
Yeah, exactly, and I think from what the club policy that I was sent by Kaylee back forever when I asked for it, and I know that we might have some updating to do, it specifically said that they can't open and operate a club if it's not gonna pay for itself, basically, and they can choose to pay for it with fundraising, or they can cover it with the club fees. So just like the fundraising club now that doesn't have a club fee, their goal is to cover all of the expenses, which luckily the teachers aren't taking stipends, I think that's awesome. But to cover all expenses with fundraising, that's the way that they're just using it as a way to bring in money to cover expenses. So I think the policy is set up to not have it be any kind of burden on the district. It's meant to take care of itself. And so if we did that with Fidelity, we could offer these enrichment opportunities without it being
I'm
a
all
burden.
for them covering their costs, because that's where our supplementals are so high, because they never make it. That's the thing. And so we try to keep some of these clubs like going, even though they don't make enough to do it. And I've talked to our athletic director too about, more fundraising other than just texting out a text-a-thon.
Do we have clubs that are not following that policy where we are carrying the burden of the
I would say you have some clubs that don't make it, and I believe we have to pay them. If it's like national honors, something that's been established for a long time, we're not gonna not pay the teacher.
So are the fees too low to cover it? Are they not doing the fundraising that's needed, or why is it not?
I'd have to get
Because
back
the
to you
policy
on
clearly
each
states-
one, but then you're again, I'd have to go back and look at each club and see, but looking at the club when we approve them all the time, they're really small numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, just so you know, athletics is a huge loss for the district.
Yeah,
And so even if you I told you if you had $50 in the fee, you're gonna bring in $15,000 more dollars, that would pay for 3 coaches, which is great. But it's not a huge number till you start getting into the $100 to $200, and parents would really be upset about that.
Well, and this touches on another subject that we'll talk about in the future, but if we had a lot of these enrichment opportunities in clubs, I would really hope that we would reconsider taking the ESA funds, because I think that would be an opportunity to bring in money and more exposure again to those students that, I mean, again, I don't think that everybody that homeschools is against public education. They're just choosing a different option at the moment. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunities to build healthy relationships, especially because we're a small school. And so this is the closest that you're going to get to a small community school versus other schools. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities there, but I guess that's the main one that I would
Okay,
push.
thank you.
Okay. Any other comments about the strategies to boost enrollment? If not, let's move on to maintenance operations override.
Okay, President Rakowski, members of the board and guests, this is a overview of the maintenance and operation override that will be coming up here soon. And we're going to walk you through what will happen here, depending on whether you decide to go for an election in November or you just choose not to. and also what will happen if it passes versus if it does not pass, okay? So these are, and I want to be very clear in speaking with our, speaking with our legal counsel about all this, is that all we're here doing today is giving you possibilities. It doesn't mean it will happen, it's just, you're gonna see some numbers today, and you need to, in order to make an informed decision, you need to know what could be a possibility with this in or not, in place or out of place, okay? So this is an actual image from the voter pamphlet in November of 2021. I was not here at that time when this passed. But as you can see, kind of, it's a little hard, and I can't point, but in that top second paragraph, pursuant to prior voter approval, a 15% increase in the district's revenue control limit. So that's the key phrase there, is you can, with this M&O override, you were able as a district to increase your funding, your revenue, by 50% of the revenue control limit. So if we do that, how this affects us, without an M&O override approval in November of 25, FHUSD will need to reduce the budget again the following year. So we're good into next year. This would not affect us next year. It would starting the following year after that. So the revenue control limit right now is 7,929,732, so almost $8 million. 15% of that is about 1.2 million. And so with that no longer in place, the district would lose an additional 1.2 million in funding on top of the cuts we have to make this year. So you would then have in the first year, which would be 26, 27, we would have to reduce our budget by $400,000 in year one. And then if nothing shifts in year two, we would have to phase it out by having a reduction of $800,000 in year two for a total of 1.2. And these are all estimates based on the information I have available to us. Okay, so any questions about how the override works or how those numbers are calculated, how it phases out? Okay.
I do have one question. Yeah. So approaching this, are we looking to just keep in place one that is about to phase out? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
It
you.
would be an extension of a current override,
Okay.
not a new override.
Okay.
Okay? So how would this affect FHUSD with reducing 1.2 million with the declining enrollment that we have? And I'm going to show you some projections. With 20% over the last 4 years of declined enrollment, and I don't anticipate that changing in the near future. 1.2 million would be equivalent to pretty much the entire high school staff salaries. Okay, the teachers are about $1 million. Again, estimates that Kaylee ran with all support staff, administration, everything. It's about 1.5. So if you meet in the middle, it's basically about the same capacity as the entire high school staff. Okay. So this is what I ran here is seniors graduating versus kindergarten enrollments. If every kindergarten class from here on out, now again, I know it's very hypothetical, this is very, very basic, but if we just take the number 50, all right, because like I said, we've been at 55, and I said I'd be probably, I'd be happy at 45, but she left 45, 50, if we could get it again this year. But let's just say 50 for the next 10 years. So 1 year it's 60, 1 year it's 40, 1 year it's 70, 1 year it's 50, and it just kind of evens out to that number. You can see that there's this is current classes right now. So that doesn't include new kids coming in, kids moving out. But if everything were to remain the same, that's kind of the projection over the next 10 years where the whole district tops out at around 700 kids, right? Just on that alone, all right? Now, I did my own projections. Now, you can't hold me to this 10 years from now, but if it's spot on, I'll take credit for it, but I don't think it will.
Did you base this on the pattern that we've seen?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so mine are a little nicer because I'm always factoring in, I know this year that we have 115 kids graduating, and we have probably 50 kids coming in. That's a pretty good estimate, and we'll see what it comes in at. But I also know I'm going to make up some of those with new kids moving into the district, with all the work we've done, all the mailers we do, all the things we do to get new families in. So Chris has set the budget for next year at, we're going to lose 86 kids next year. That's worst case scenario, and that's where we budget, so that if the worst happens, we can still make our budget. But if like this year, we're plus 30 off of last year's guess, right? We guessed 100, ended up being 70. So we got plus 30. We have a little more carry forward money than we would have had.
And the reason for that is you can't go back, you got to do worst case.
Right.
We can always come back in June and be like,
Yeah.
hey, we only lost 50. What I can't do is set a budget and be like, ooh, I thought we were going to only lose 50, but we lost.
Yeah,
70.
so that's very conservative, right? Okay, so I then did, so mine are blue and green is the other one. So this is the light blue here. I transfer that to green on this slide, and then I put my own projections in blue, okay? And I don't see it being as drastic over the next 10 years. I'm being very optimistic here, but I'm also being pretty realistic, where we start at like 1080-ish, and it ends up being around 980-ish, somewhere around there. So I still think we're gonna lose 100 kids over the next 10 years. But again, we can't budget off this. We can't, it's just my interpretation, because what I did is I looked at every year and say, like, okay, 25, 26, I think we're not gonna lose as many kids as we said, all right? Then in 26, 27, I think we're gonna lose a fraction of what the senior kindergarten number is really gonna be, and I just kept that going. But what you can see is by the time we get to about 2030, 2031, which sounds really weird, but when you get to that, I kind of see it topping out and kind of being level. And you can also see in the green, it really slows at that time too, just based off that alone. There's gonna be a point where this district's gonna have to kind of level out at some point. Somewhere between 50 and 75 a class is what I'm expecting. So again, just thinking that in when you're looking at this M&O override, all I'm trying to show here is that regardless of the calculation, the enrollment is going to continuously go down, in my opinion. Unless something shifts in the town and all of a sudden, there's a big boom and there's a new housing development or something like that comes. I don't see it. All right, so here's what you'd have to do with that 1.2 million. The one option is further reductions in staff. So to cut 1.2 million, even if you went down to one principal in the whole district, one dean in the whole district, no transportation, we don't drive a single mile, and reduce one additional district admin, that still doesn't get you to 1.2 million, okay? It would get you a good distance of the way, but then you would have basically one person running almost everything at the district and one person running everything at the sites. And that would be very, very tough to do, okay? It's also equivalent to 20 teachers. So again, you're talking about the high school has roughly 20-some teachers. That's why I use the high school as an example there. Or you could do some combination of administrative and certified cuts. You could use some reserve money here. So if the first year, if it doesn't pass, you have to come up with a $400,000 deficit. You could pull that out of reserve and carry on, but then do that for 3 or 4 years, you're out of money, okay? And the next year's 800. So when that one hits, it's really gonna hit us hard at that point. So another possibility, other than just further reduction in staff, would be to close the school. So possible school closure, and again, it's possible, you would all be the one to decide that, but if you did have to close a school, the most viable one would be the high school, because it's the most expensive to run. It has, it's gonna be about 300 kids next year. It's a pretty small number. And the high school students are better suited for attending school outside of town because of their age and their ability to get home and, be outside of town on their own. You can't do that with little kids, right? So FHUSD would then be able to use reserve money to keep the high school open for the short term with your guys' approval. If it didn't pass, to maybe let another class or two graduate if that's what we wanted to do, something like that. But here's where it could help us. So the land sale factors in again. So if the land sale is done by this time and the override does not pass, and we're looking at a $1.2 million fiscal cliff here, You could take your capital, by then it'd probably be around $500,000 to $600,000 a year. You could move that over to M&O and pay for capital things out of, your land sale money. And we'd have to double check and triple check that that's okay to do, but that's what the finance people have shared with me, that a lot of districts do that. So if you did that, you could get it down from maybe 1.2 to another 700,000. But now, again, you're talking about, you're gonna run out of land sale money over time because you're using it on people versus fixing buildings. So if it passed the M&O override, then reductions for next year would be, there wouldn't really be any with the successful reductions this year. We don't see any changes to the schools or programs in the immediate future because we're already planning to live on, the reduced budget we have for next year moving forward, plus reserves. And if the M&O override passes, we don't have to come up with another 1.2 million. We can maintain what we do. And then with the land sale money, you could support maintenance and repairs, which also reduces your M&O costs. And that would, along with reserves, would be able to keep us open, but also slow the exhaustion of those funds because, again, you don't have to come up with that 1.2 million.
Can we use the land sale money for capital expenses?
Only what we're allotted. So in a year-to-year basis, so like last year, it was, like this year coming up is probably gonna be around 600. This year was 650. So as student count drops, your capital drops too, so just like every other account drops. So by the time you sell the land, I'm guessing capital will be around 550. It would be what you'd be able to move over of that 1.2.
So I was triggered by your word repairs. When we have the land sale, why would we not use the land sale money to replace the things that keep needing
You
repair?
would, but if you use it on people, you won't be able to. That's what I'm trying to
Okay.
say. So I would use it personally. I would not use it on salaries because then that's one of your only funding options you have right now is land sale money. So if that goes away, because we spend it on salaries, then you have nothing to show for it when it's all gone. Then you're gonna be selling down the road El Lago, and then that could float the district a little bit longer, obviously, as well. But with no bond, and again, the people have spoken on the bond, it's not an option. So the bond is out, right? DA override is out. This is your option for additional funding is the land sale money. So if you don't use it to replace everything, then I could see people in the community saying, okay, well, you took your land sale money and you didn't fix anything because you spent it on salaries and on people.
I would absolutely advise using it to repair.
Okay, so if you don't use the land sale money and it doesn't pass, then we'd have to come up with another 1.2 million in cuts, which would be most obvious choice would be to close the school, only because I'll tell you this, if you try to divide the 1.2 million, so 4, 4, and 4 at each of the sites, all of them are gonna get hit with really tough reductions, and I think they're all gonna be, it's gonna be hard to be efficient and run versus saying, okay, we could do these two schools or this school really, really well and provide a really good opportunity for kids. So again, I'm just giving you possibles. I'm not saying that's going to happen. You get to decide all that. But you have to have the reality of if that override does not pass, it is a big one for the district.
And we need to go ahead.
Could you just give a high-level timeline of what it would take to get an override extension or continuation on the ballot?
Yes, so we have to make a decision by May as a board, okay?
May 1st.
May, yep. Is it May 1st? Krista, she has the date.
You could be spot on. I have to look at the email. You want me to look at the email?
Yeah, let's look it up and just give them an exact date. So we've checked into this, and you would have to make a decision by May to be able to make the election deadlines and all that. Our attorneys that we use for elections, Gus Rosenfeld, then would come in, create a resolution that you would approve at the next meeting, or not approve. So at the next meeting, you're gonna get a resolution from them saying, do you wanna go for this, do you not wanna go for it? You get to decide.
At the next meeting from this one, sorry.
Yeah, so it'll be 2 weeks from now, and then you will have a chance to vote on that, or you could table it if you want, like you have that option, we have till May. And then once you make the decision to go for that, then the wheels start in process of us going to the elections and doing all the things that we've done this the last 2 years, so Krista's got it down to a science. So she'd make sure it's all done correctly.
And if let's say it passes, we don't get the money till, what, January?
We
or
don't,
the
it wouldn't
following
be, we just wouldn't lose money.
It would be seamless,
It would be
basically,
seamless.
yeah.
We would
Okay.
never even know.
So it's not like we have to wait.
We don't have to get money, it's just, we don't
There's
lose.
no additional money, we just
We
don't have
just
to
don't
make
lose
cuts.
it, yeah.
The 8th is the date that we have to have approval to call for election.
What was it? What was it?
May
The
8th.
So what would be, oh no, we're voting on the next one.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you didn't want to go on this election and you wanted to go on the next election, which I would not, I would just say that would put us in a really tough spot, because now you got to come up with another $400,000 next year in budget cuts on top of whatever the student enrollment loss is that next year as well. Could be as high as $500,000 to $600,000 we'd have to cut and go for the election the following year. But if that fails, then you're looking at, again, 800 and then 0 forever, like you would not have anything in place.
I know there's some like rules and regulations around any kind of promotion of the override from, staff and stuff, but is there, and I know that these meetings are public, but it's a little different because it's not necessarily discussion. Is there a way that we could have some kind of town hall where it's not just a presentation, but it's more of a question and answer where community members can engage in the conversation?
Absolutely,
and-
I did probably 5 in the bond and override last time, those are just the ones we offered. Then we went out to I did a town hall at the town hall, and then I did every service organization. So I probably spoke at 40, 50 different events, and I was very clear, like, I didn't take a side, this is the reality, this is what it is. I can't promote or be against, I can't take a side on it.
Which I understand the reason for that, and I guess my thought is, and I don't know, my question is really is if it's appropriate for a town hall to happen where it's you and us, since, and
Well,
I
we
would
can
love
get
just a
guidance from
genuine
the-
conversation
yeah.
with the community members.
Sure. We can get guidance from our attorney on that. Like, I was very careful in everything I did to stick to, this is what and I'm doing the same right now. Like I told you up front, I'm not saying that's gonna happen, I'm saying it's possible. But I don't know any other way after this year's reductions, the following 2 years, reducing another 1.2, talking 2.7 in 3 years. That's massive. And so then, like I said, you got to start thinking about, when you look at the high school, as much as, love the high school, it is at 300 students, and it is of all 3 schools, it is the easiest one to look at. And then do you keep, that's another question for you, would you keep the middle school open with the high school not being there? Would you look at, those kids going to another school district and having the district no longer be unified, but be the Fountain Hills Elementary School District?
I really hope we never get to that point, and the discussions I've had with people that haven't been necessarily invested in whether or not our school district makes it or not, I always let them know how important it is that we have access to our own school district and our own superintendent, our own board, like the way that we're gonna fix the problems. Yeah, the way that we're gonna fix our problems in the country is local control and localized involvement.
And what's interesting is how this district was founded. It was founded in 1970 for local control. And then in 1974, when Four Peaks was back then, it was called Fountain Hills Elementary School, when that opened, they always went to Mesa before that. And they wanted to have control, their own school board, their own administration. And so what's interesting is we're kind of full circle, from 1970 till now, we're almost back to the same exact spot where we were. It's kind of interesting how time works and how things are happening. But you're right, you definitely have that would be something you could speak to.
Well, it would be really interesting to hear what community members have to say and their thoughts and stuff, because with things like that, it would be nice to be able to clear up the misconception around that, because in the end, I'm a conservative, so I'm fiscally responsible, and so some people on that side think, well, we don't need our own school district, but I'm absolutely not on that side of things, because
again, I believe in local control and being more in touch with what's happening with our things, and that's, I think that's again one of
So
our strengths.
we'll check with the attorney to see what you can be a part of, I know what I can do, because I've done it twice now. So going through this again for a third time, yeah, I've done it. So we will get, if the decision is made in 2 weeks that you want to go for the override, then Krista and I will take it from there, and we'll keep you updated along the way, and we'll go through the process. But I just think you need to know the reality of what is at stake there with another 15% of your budget gone.
What would the cost of the election be this time? Is this a special
Yeah.
election? So it's
40.
increased
Like
expenses?
30 or 40,
About 40,000.
Okay.
That's what it was last time.
because there's no other issue in the ballot.
Yeah.
Unless something else comes up.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. I
Any other
appreciate it.
questions?
We good? Okay, future action, everyone can see what we have there, and then do you want to make a motion to have another meeting
Well,
to address budget reductions?
I don't think, does it have to be a motion? I want.
Well, to have an extra
another-
meeting, we would have to have a motion and an approval of the board to
Okay.
have an extra meeting.
Yeah, I move
So-
that we add an additional meeting for in-depth discussion on the budget. And I would probably encourage maybe having the M&O override on there I guess it'll be on the agenda to vote on. I know that they're so closely related that I end up talking about both of those things.
Well, we could have the agenda be the budget reductions and the M&O override for a further discussion, but not a vote.
Perfect.
Is that, okay? So that's the motion?
I'll
And are you
second.
for next Wednesday? Are we talking next Wednesday?
I would make time.
Yeah? Okay, you want a second, Kim?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of that, please say aye. What? Oh.
I just checked my calendar.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, I cannot.
We have the state playoffs,
Oh,
and I just want to make sure.
Can Krista email us with some time options? Because
I think what I would rather do is have you guys email me your availability and I can, I'll do it however.
okay.
I will make time around your guys' schedule.
So you want to change the motion for a date to be determined?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Time as well, or it needs to be at 6 o'clock?
it'll likely be a 6, but.
We typically do special meetings around 4. So,
Yeah.
I would encourage at 6 though, so that the public could be included.
Okay.
I think that these are really
So we should
controversial
all
subjects. I'd
email
love
you our
people to be-
availability, Krista? We should email you our
or
availability?
however you want to handle it, I'm happy.
That's probably the easiest, 'cause I don't have my calendar book with me
Okay.
either. Okay, so that's the motion, and we have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous, we'll do that. Okay, dates of upcoming meetings, so March 5th, March 19th, and then this one to be determined. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
How about a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're
Aye.
adjourned. You're right. Okay, I don't know, we have signatures. Right? No?
On this one, I would wait.
Just
on
me?
that.
Okay.
I would wait on that.
But on minutes, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.